I'm glad I just remembered that. That would have been very bad. Okay.
You have base going on. Did you look at the few things I did get done to the website?
Yeah.
I am going to mute everyone who is not muted, just as I mentioned earlier. No offense, but it minimizes our background noise. We have begun recording. Mickey, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Thanks, Steve. You bet. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for coming to this kind of an annual demo of the Missouri Evergreen platform and some discussion about what Missouri Evergreen is all about. I'm Mickey Colwell, and I'm the Executive Director of Missouri Evergreen and have been in place, since late last year. And I'm glad to be here to talk a little bit and welcome you to Missouri Evergreen. If you've not experienced it before, I'm sure you've heard about it from other people, and I'm sure you've done your own investigation. The purpose of this demo, which is provided mainly through our board and through the auspices of Steve Campbell, our longtime member and advocate for Missouri Evergreen, is to give you a sense of what it's about and to answer your questions. And more importantly, it's an opportunity for you to get to know the people that make up Missouri Evergreen. All of us are involved in the project, and all of us are interested in it with our important partners. That would be the State Library, our vendor partner, Equinox Open Library Initiative, and other entities in the state that allow us to do what we do. Missouri Evergreen is 10 years old. Can you believe it? The consortium was started 10 years ago in 2012, with Poplar Bluff being the first member to join. And subsequently, we've grown to the size of 60 members, which is about 45% of all public libraries in the state. So we have some pretty aggressive goals for continuing to grow Missouri Evergreen. And at some point, we hope that Missouri Evergreen serves as a statewide catalog for all libraries, public libraries, and other libraries in the state as well. Right now, every public library in Missouri is eligible to join Missouri Evergreen. And since we have 40% of Missouri public libraries already as members, we're interested in inviting you to come aboard and become a member of Missouri Evergreen with us. The state library, as I said, continues to provide Missouri Evergreen with federal grant support to keep member costs low. And as Steve will tell you and others in this presentation, becoming a member of Missouri Evergreen is as affordable as it's ever been. The consortium currently includes public libraries of all sizes, from Scenic Regional, which is one of our largest, Jefferson County, one of our largest, to some of our smallest, like Albany Carnegie. Whatever size library you have, I think Missouri Evergreen offers you the chance to share your materials, and in most cases, more importantly, to get materials from other library collections for your patrons without spending a dime. There's a lot of benefits to Missouri Evergreen, but the most important one, I think, is that you join a community of other libraries and librarians who are dedicated to serving their communities in the best way possible. And that goes beyond resource sharing, and certainly goes to ways to make the library as welcoming and as pleasant for our patrons as it can be. So that's all I have to say, except welcome to this demo. The agenda that Steve sent out gives you pretty much a layout of what the day will be like and who will be covering these items. We're going to take a lunch break, so you'll have time to go have some lunch. Please don't feel like you have to sit in for every moment of this demo. If you need to bow out, just turn your camera off or walk away and come back when you're ready. The demo is designed in modules so that you can pick the things that are most important or interesting to you and come back later. We're going to go through this whole thing, and it will be recorded, as Steve said. He hit that record button. So if you can't stay for a portion of this meeting today, you can return to it in the recording, which will be sent out after this. I also want to take a few minutes to introduce our current board president, Sue Lightfoot Horeen. And Sue and I have been working amicably together since she took over the board in July, and I'm sure she has some welcoming comments as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey. I'm Sue. One of the things I need for everybody to understand is that you're with friends. Any question that you have, please ask us. We are here to answer those questions, clear up some misunderstandings about Missouri Evergreen, and we're also here to offer sustainability to our public libraries with Missouri Evergreen as our ILS and our host and resource sharing. We have a whole list of the executive director, Mickey, board members, Steve Campbell, doing presentations along the course of the day. So once again, welcome. And Steve, it's your baby. Let's go with it.
Okay, and now I'm going to repeat some of the same things Mickey said, just so you know in advance. My name is Steve Campbell. As Mickey mentioned, I am director of the Scenic Regional Library. I've been on the Missouri Evergreen board since, I think, 2014 or 2015. I'm also past president of the consortium, and I have totally drank the Kool-Aid when it comes to Missouri Evergreen. So I am like the cheerleader of the consortium, which is why I always volunteer to do this part of our presentation, our demo. I've been involved with Missouri Evergreen since the very beginning. In 2010, I believe it was, our Missouri State Librarian at the time, Margaret Conroy, had an amazing vision. Her goal was to create a statewide automation consortium, like many other states have or had at the time, to allow people from all over to Missouri to seamlessly share resources using a single online catalog. It was truly an incredible plan, at least especially for Missouri, that had nothing like that at the time, really, statewide. She created a committee to select the ILS that was going to serve this consortium, as well as an organization or a company to operate that ILS. So at the time, I was director of North Kansas City Public Library, and I was on that committee, along with some other, many other library directors. We visited other libraries in Missouri and Kansas. We reviewed the RFQs we received, and we decided to select Evergreen as the ILS for the consortium. And we selected Mobius to operate the ILS. So Evergreen was developed by the Georgia State Library in 2006, I believe, as the ILS for their statewide consortium called Georgia Pines. When they created it as open source software, meaning unlike Polaris or Circe or a lot of these other systems that are created and sold by vendors, Evergreen and other open source software, say that 3 times real fast, open source software is free. You can download it for free, just like you can a Chrome web browser or any other freeware. You can either have your own in-house staff manage it, or you can pay a company to manage it for you. And like I said, our committee decided to have Mobius manage the software for us. They had previously, or they currently even manage a statewide consortium among mostly academic libraries called Mobius. So they had a lot of experience in that area. They housed the servers, which were in the cloud, the mysterious cloud, and they updated the software for us, provided a help desk for us. So if we had any problems, we would call them and they would take care of it. And I'm saying all that in the past tense because we don't contract with Mobius anymore, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. However, it still works the same way. Individual member libraries do not need IT staff to manage the ILS, the Evergreen ILS. They don't need a server on site to manage. Don't have to deal with any of those issues, updating the server every several years, upgrading software, none of that. Like I said, it's all in the cloud and it's managed by a company for us. Now, you might be saying, if you have an IT manager, what am I going to do with my IT manager if I do this? Because that person upgrades our software and manages our server. I am certain there are plenty other IT tasks for that person to do. Larger libraries, libraries with multiple branches, also benefit by what we call at my library a circulation coordinator. We have a person at our headquarters who we funnel all our help desk tickets to. We don't want all of our branches contacting Evergreen, the Evergreen help desk directly with their issues. We don't want to have 9 help desk tickets coming from 9 branches about the same issue, all going to Equinox or going to the help desk. So we have this circulation coordinator. So if there's not something that she can answer, she'll submit the help desk ticket for our entire library system. So if you have an IT person and you have multiple locations or a lot of staff, you might want to use that person partly in that role to funnel those help desk tickets through one person from your library. So, but once again, I'm sure everyone's IT people have plenty of other things to do besides manage a server for Evergreen. Evergreen is used by libraries of all sizes, as Mickey mentioned, and also consortia of all sizes around the entire world. It's used by over 1,800 libraries worldwide. The Evergreen software community is an international community. There are libraries in India and Europe, literally all over the world that have Evergreen. And that's why their conference is an international conference every year, of course. Poplar Bluff was the first Missouri Evergreen member. And since 2012, the consortium's added about 4 or 5 new libraries a year. And as Mickey said, currently I believe we have 58 members that are actually already migrated. And then we have another 5 that are scheduled to migrate, which is somewhere between a third and 40% of the 152 libraries in Missouri. So the next 5 are scheduled to join are St. Joseph, Mississippi County, Barton County, Morgan County, Bonne Terre. So we are a constantly growing consortium. Now, a few years ago, Missouri Evergreen decided to leave Mobius, and we now have Equinox managing Evergreen. They do all the same things Mobius did for us. Equinox is a great company. They worked with Georgia when they created Evergreen. So they provided about 80% of the code, the original code for Evergreen. So they know what they're doing in respect to Evergreen. So we are still in good hands, even though we've left Mobius. They are in the state, but Equinox provides equal and excellent service. The great thing about an open source ILS is that if you're unhappy with the organization or the company you have managing it for you, you can leave them and find someone else, but keep the same ILS. So you don't need to retrain your staff and go through all that that you would normally go through when you migrate from one ILS to another. You just change the people managing it for you. So the system is not inseparably tied to the vendor, which is awesome. You are not locked into a contract with a vendor. I know there are many libraries I've talked to who have Circe and other products, not that I'm against Circe, but I talked to them about Evergreen. They're like, oh, I would like to join, but I can't because I'm locked into a 5-year contract or a 6-year contract. And I've heard that from other libraries too. And it's wonderful not to be locked into a contract. You can leave Evergreen in theory anytime you want. There is no contract tying you down. Another great thing about the Evergreen software is it's constantly improving. Equinox schedules with us annual updates for the software. These updates are approved by the international Evergreen community. Each update eliminates bugs, it fixes other issues, provides improvements. I've been at libraries with Cersei. I'm not picking on Cersei, but that's always the system that I've had at the few libraries I've worked at before I was at Scenic Regional. And I think Cersei is a great system. And I don't know how it is now, but when I used Cersei, if we didn't like something about the software, we had no recourse. Updates and upgrades were very infrequent, sometimes many years apart. And you couldn't just call Cersei and say, hey, can you change this? We don't like it. With Evergreen, that's actually an option. You can provide input to the international Evergreen community and Equinox and work toward getting things changed if you don't like them, or we can as a consortium. And they're always working to improve the software. Or you can make changes yourself as a consortium. We had Mobius do that for us multiple times. We had them create things for us and do things for us that we wanted changed, and they were able to implement those for us through the international Evergreen community. A little while back, we created a software development fund for our consortium, and we're putting, I think, something like $7,000 or $8,000 a year into that fund. Which can be used to change things in Evergreen and improve things. And once they're improved by one consortium, they're available to every consortium in the world. So if we upgrade or fix something, it's available to everyone. When we wanted a mobile app, some of our member libraries chipped in money, and we customized a great app that already existed, but it was, free because it's open source. It had been developed by Georgia Pines and Indiana Evergreen. And so we customized it for our consortium, and now we have that as a piece of software add-on for our consortium members. The app is free to all our member libraries. It's a great app if you haven't checked it out. I think we're gonna demo it here later in the event today. We also contributed money toward the development of something called Simple Reporter, which we wanted to make our reporting module more user-friendly, and that's going to be talked about later. We have someone here from Equinox who's going to demonstrate Simple Reporter a little bit. So when Evergreen was first formed, the North Kansas City Library, where I was at, was already part of a giant consortium at the time with Kansas City Public Library and other libraries in that area called KCLC. And we had access to millions of items, so we did not join, even though I was on that founding committee. I really wanted to, but at the time it didn't quite make sense for us, because Evergreen was so small. However, as soon as I moved to Scenic Regional Library, shortly after that, the first thing I did was begin the process for Scenic Regional to join Evergreen. And I'll admit, when we first joined, we were not very happy. The online catalog was awful. There were endless issues with bibliographic records. There were no committees addressing any of the issues. But over the last 8 years, Missouri Evergreen has made enormous strides. Honestly, I would not promote, and I was not recruiting anyone to join the consortium the first few years I was a member, because I just could not do that in good conscience, because there were so many issues at the time going on. However, today there is a night and day difference. As you know, I mentioned I have drank the Kool-Aid. There are multiple committees, including a standing circulation committee, cataloging committee, reports committee, and they are constantly working on improving things for the consortium. We now have a strategic plan. Catalog cleanup is being done constantly. We hired staff for the consortium. We have a full-time contract cataloger I'll talk about in a little bit. We have Mickey, our part-time executive director. So we have just made enormous strides. And now, as I mentioned, I am a huge supporter and advocate of Missouri Evergreen. For the past, I guess, 5 or 6 years, I have been very eager to promote the consortium. If you see me at a conference or a meeting, if you're not a member of Evergreen, one of the first things I will say to you is, have you heard about Evergreen? Do you want to join Evergreen? And I will bend your ear or break you down until I can convince you to join. So actually, so much so, the first few, over the last 5 or 6 years before we began doing these annual virtual demos, my staff and I traveled around the state doing Evergreen demos and recruiting new member libraries. We did that several times all around the state. I just think it's such an amazing opportunity for public libraries, and I think everyone should be a member. So I want to share it with everyone. We conducted a member library survey a couple of years ago. I did as part of our strategic planning, and 91.6% of the member libraries at the time were either satisfied or very satisfied with the consortium. And I think that really shows how much the consortium has improved and how much our members and their patrons really appreciate the resources. Now, as Mickey alluded to a little bit, we are operated by the members. Missouri Evergreen is governed by a 9-member board. It's still 9 members, Sue, right? Shake your head. We're at 9. Okay, I know we've expanded it since I've been on the board. That's how long I've been on the board. The board is elected by the members and open to not just directors, but also assistant directors, administrators, department heads. So other people from your library can serve on the board. The board includes also 2 non-voting members who are the chair of those cataloging and circulation committees. Sue Lightfoot, as mentioned, she is director at the Livingston County Library. She is currently chair of our consortium. The board has decided on everything we do, from how often to do Evergreen software updates, to moving ahead with customizing the app for our consortium and going ahead with that project. And we meet every month. The meetings are virtual, and we make all the decisions for the consortium, not Equinox. We make those decisions and we tell Equinox what to do. Our board also made the decision to move, of course, from Mobius to Equinox. We understand that smaller libraries may not have the staff to be heavily involved. However, we do encourage all member libraries to attend meetings and participate on our committees. Everything's virtual, so it makes it pretty easy. In addition to the cataloging circulation committee, we've also had many temporary committees. I was on one of the very first committees we ever had, which was an OPAC committee to fix our OPAC and make it look much, much nicer, which the 3 of us that were on the committee made a lot of recommendations, and we were able to implement those, and Mobius changed those things and made the cataloging so much nicer. We've also had strategic planning committees and a fees committee. I was on all those too. I'm on every committee. I serve on every committee, it sounds like. I know I do, but we've had a lot of temporary committees as well. So, benefits of membership. So what are the benefits of Missouri Evergreen? Mickey mentioned them a tiny bit. I was hoping he wasn't going to go on now, because I was like, oh no, I can't say these things now if he talks about them already. But I really wanted to hit on this because this is so important, why you should join Missouri Evergreen. For some libraries, it's a cost saving. But the 3 reasons I've heard prospective members say why they want to join, or those who have joined who say, why they joined, is cost saving, resource sharing, and to get a better ILS than what they already have. So cost saving I'll talk about next. So let me jump ahead to the second reason, the big reason. The reason that everyone should be knocking down the door to join Missouri Evergreen is resource sharing. I truly believe that joining Missouri Evergreen is the single best thing a library and library director can do for their patrons. Patrons can go into the online catalog, and instead of seeing your library's 50,000 or 10,000 or 200,000 items, they are seeing over 3.8 million items. 3.8 million items. That's more than Kansas City Public has. That's more than Springfield Green has. That's more than Mid-Continent Public Library has. I used to be able to say at this point more than St. Louis County has, but St. Louis County, they decided to create a consortium or a shared catalog with St. Louis Public Library. So see, it's not just all the Evergreen libraries that are catching on to this amazing concept. It's also even the biggest libraries in the state. The 2 of the biggest libraries in the state realize that joining a consortium, creating a consortium among themselves and sharing an online catalog made sense. So they combined their catalogs together, and now, of course, they're bigger than Missouri Evergreen. But until that happened, we were the largest consortium in the state by far. So anyway, it's absolutely amazing, the resource sharing that's available. It's like a patron of a library with a budget of only $400,000 or even $4 million can access as many materials as a patron in a library district with a budget of $40 or $50 million. I mean, it's just a game changer, especially in rural areas and areas with smaller libraries that have more limited budgets. So as librarians, our #1 job is providing patrons with access to information. That's generally the mission of most libraries. And our job is also to remove barriers to access. And if that's the case, and you really want to fulfill your mission, then Missouri Evergreen should be a no-brainer. It should be an absolute no-brainer. There's no better way you can eliminate barriers to access and provide your patrons with more information than joining this consortium, because they're going to have easy access to 3.8 million items and growing. Now, if you're going to say, well, my library already offers traditional OCLC ILL and it doesn't get used very much, or, we fulfill a lot of requests that way, we have access to libraries all over the country, you are comparing apples to oranges. Our library used to do 350 to 400 OCLC ILL requests a month, which is a lot for some of the smaller libraries, especially. We joined Missouri Evergreen, and within a couple years, we were lending and borrowing 6,000 to 7,000 items a month. And we weren't doing like a lot of publicity about it either. It's just patrons jumped on our online catalog, they saw the items, and they were able to request them so easily. You don't have to fill out a form like you do with traditional ILL through OCLC. There's no paperwork. They just click on a hold button in your OPAC and the request is done. Your patrons are going to love having access to all these items, 3.8 or more million items. I guarantee it. If you get complaints from any of your patrons, if you join Missouri Evergreen, they're complaining about having access to 3.8 million items, have them call me personally. I would love to talk to them because I can't imagine someone is going to complain to having access to all those materials. They can literally request any item they want, and if it's available, they'll have it in less than a week. New member libraries, I know this is a controversial statement I'm going to make here. New member libraries generally experience a 4 to 8% increase in circulation due to ILL traffic from other Missouri Evergreen libraries. Now, I said it's controversial, but we looked at the data, and that was the data from our existing members, what they saw their circulation increase when they joined. Now, I'm not going to say every library is different. I get it. So your library might join have less than 4% or more than 8%, but that is what the data showed for our existing members. So it's a way to get your patrons more access and also to potentially increase use at your library. So some of our smaller member libraries even quit doing OCLC ILL after joining because their patrons had access to so many items, they decided it was unnecessary. So they canceled their subscription, and that saved them, and a lot of the smaller libraries have limited budgets, it saved them a bundle of money. So I'm not saying that you should do that or not, but that's something that was done and indicates how much access they were giving their patrons. They didn't even do that anymore. This is why, libraries that say they're looking for a new ILS and they want to do an RFQ, I say that's unfair. Whenever I hear about a library doing an RFQ for a new ILS, I think it's really ridiculous if they're considering Missouri Evergreen, because it's really an unfair comparison. Once again, you're comparing apples to oranges. You can get Circe, Polaris, whatever proprietary system you want, but no matter how amazing it is, you're not getting resource sharing. If you want resource sharing, we are the only game in town. So it's your only option. And you don't have to do an RFQ for something when there's only one supplier of that product. And we are the only supplier of resource sharing in Missouri. So the third reason, which was a reason that Margaret Conroy really wanted, one of the main reasons, besides, of course, resource sharing, that she wanted to start the consortium was for a better ILS. For small libraries, they're using very basic systems. Some of them use the same systems that are out of the box kind of systems that you see in school libraries. Evergreen is certainly an upgrade. However, for medium libraries, some of you have Circe and a lot of other systems. I tell them, you don't join Missouri Evergreen for the ILS. That shouldn't be the motivating factor. It's really about, once again, the resource sharing. There's nothing wrong with Evergreen. The ILS is great. It's solid. It gets the job done. I've heard frontline staff that have worked at libraries with Circe and then moved to Evergreen who say that they think Evergreen's more user-friendly than Circe at the front desk. So, I mean, there is that. However, I'm not going to convince anyone that Evergreen is superior to those systems, those high-end systems. They do have certain bells and whistles in the back end, especially. However, in my opinion, and this is going to be critical, I guess, sounding, libraries who prefer one of the higher end ILS systems with a lot of bells and whistles, they're basically making a conscious decision to choose some cool ILS features over giving their patrons access easy access to 3.8 million items. And to me, like I said, depending on what your library's mission is, that's not really putting one's priorities in the right place. I have an ability to do something cool in my ILS, and I'm trading that for my patrons to have access to 3.8 million items. I personally don't think that's a good set of priorities. So there you go. That's my criticism of everyone who might think that. Our fees, as Mickey mentioned, this is I think resource sharing is the number one reason. A lot of libraries have said that it saved the money, which is great. As I mentioned, that is a reason some members have joined. Let's see. Evergreen is open source. It's free software. However, it's free like puppies. You have to still pay for the expenses of managing it, taking care of it. So we do pay Equinox to manage Missouri Evergreen, but the Missouri State Library, using LSTA funds, subsidizes those costs. So the consortium costs are very low. And the Missouri State Library and Secretary of State's office, as Mickey mentioned, are both committed to continuing that funding. So that's an enormous benefit to our consortium. The fee structure for Missouri Evergreen really has the cost burden on the larger libraries. The fees are based on annual budget, which is a little unusual. Libraries with budgets of under $300,000 pay about, well, actually this coming year, 2023, it'll be $884 to Missouri Evergreen. That's it. That's the whole fee. There is about $100 extra for Syndetics and Marchive. Syndetics is what gives you like the book jacket images and book reviews and the online catalog. And Marchive's a cataloging thing. I don't know anything about cataloging, but Marchive's for catalogers. And you can ask the catalogers about that when they do their part of the demo. But it's $884. That's your base fee. It does increase 2% every year, but that's a pretty inexpensive ILS considering the quality of the ILS you're getting. Now, libraries with budgets of over $300,000 pay the $884 plus not 3%, 0.3% of their annual budget, as it shows in the most recent state statistical report. And that's usually a couple of years behind the one that actually appears on the Secretary of State's website. So it's $884 plus that 0.3% of their budget. So it's really a bargain. And I'll tell you it's really a bargain because a few years ago, I received a super discounted quote to migrate to Polaris, which is a very good system. And the quote I got, the bargain basement dollar quote they gave me, was $49,000 a year. With Missouri Evergreen, we pay, even with the burden of the fees being placed in the larger libraries, and us being one of those larger libraries, our fees are $18,000 a year. So $31,000 cheaper for my library to belong to Evergreen. Now, I don't know about you, but I can do a lot of things with an extra $31,000 a year, and I do. So that just kind of gives you an idea for a medium-sized library, or a library that would entertain the idea of using a system like Polaris and Circe, what the dramatic difference in cost is because we have those subsidies from the state library. So the actual migration to Missouri Evergreen is actually free. And not free like puppies, but legitimately free. The Missouri State Libraries provides grants to cover those costs. So there's the annual fee, and that's it. The state library will be talking here in a little bit about the grants they provide for that migration. Even with the fees so low, the consortium has been able to hire, as I mentioned, a full-time cataloger for the consortium using funds from the state library. And then, and the cataloger doesn't do cataloging for Missouri Evergreen member libraries. However, our cataloger has created great training resources for the consortium, and also a certification process for catalogers at the member libraries. So that's been an enormous help for us as well, too. As Mickey also mentioned briefly, Missouri Evergreen is a community. When the James Memorial Library decided to join Missouri Evergreen, other libraries sent staff over to help them rebarcode. We've done the same for other libraries like Cedar County and Reynolds County. So we help each other. It's really nice. When Montgomery City hired a new library director, she asked other members for help. She felt like she and her staff needed more help with training Evergreen, so we offered and had them come down to our library and provided them with training on site. So Missouri Library community is already a very close-knit community, but Missouri Evergreen Consortium members are even closer knit. When you're using the same ILS, you can share training materials, ask each other questions. It's basically a giant statewide ILS support group. And it's really tremendous. It's tremendous help especially for the smaller libraries that don't have a lot of staff and need that. So my time's almost up. I did send an email out to everyone that talked about like frequently asked questions or items of concern for people who might be joining. I'd like to hit on a couple of those, but like I said, this is all provided in more detail in my email. So if you want to show your library board this recording or your staff, I would also encourage you to print that out and show them. One of the great things about Missouri Evergreen is I know some libraries have concern about having to change their policies, their circulation policies they join. But a library at the moment keeps all their circulation policies if they join. If a patron from North Kansas City requests an item from Poplar Bluff and checks it out at North Kansas City, the North Kansas City policies apply to that item. So if North Kansas City doesn't charge fines and Poplar Bluff does, even though the book is coming from Poplar Bluff, there's no overdue fines accrued on that item at North Kansas City. The same is true for the length of loan periods, anything like that involving their circulation policy. Another big concern for the little libraries is they have very limited budgets, and their concern is if I lend stuff to other libraries and it gets lost, that costs some money. They can't afford to replace it, and it's expensive. Well, with the way Missouri Evergreen works is the borrowing library pays the lending library for that replacement cost up front, regardless of whether the patron pays or not. So if you borrow a book from Scenic Regional Library, or if we borrow a book from your library and our patron loses it, we're going to pay you for that book immediately, even if we don't have the money from our patron yet. So you will get those costs back. And the final thing is age protection, which is also awesome. If you have a special collection, such as genealogy or local history books, you do not have to lend those. Obviously, the purpose of the consortium is resource sharing. So a library can't simply decide, I'm not going to share all my DVDs or my audiobooks. However, Missouri Evergreen does offer special collections can be kept from being loaned, like I mentioned. And also, we provide age protection, meaning you do not have to loan your newest materials. You can say, for 3 months, I'm not lending any of our new stuff, or 6 months, we're not lending any of our new stuff. So you have the ability to give your patrons first access to that. So in conclusion, I believe personally that every generation of librarians can point to one big thing that they are part of. In the past in Missouri, they had cataloging cooperatives, which were awesome, and regional library networks, which were awesome. And I think for our generation, Missouri Evergreen is the big thing. And I want to encourage everyone to be part of something so great and so big. It's so exciting to get new libraries on board. Helping grow Missouri Evergreen is one of the things I am most proud of in my career. So if you like what you see today, all you have to do is have your library board approve the memorandum of understanding found on the Missouri Evergreen website, sign it, and send it to Sue Lightfoot. And then you'll be contacted by Equinox and the consortium, and they'll begin discussing your migration and try to work you into the migration calendar. It's that easy. So now I'm going to finally stop talking. And I'm going to have Shannon Midyett, I believe, who is Assistant Director at Poplar Bluff, show you some resources that Missouri Evergreen offers its members on its website and other places as well. Whew. I broke a sweat. Shannon?
Good morning. Can
Great.
everyone see my screen? Does it say welcome to Missouri Evergreen? No?
Yes. We do.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. Good morning. As Steve said, my name's Shannon Midyett. I currently serve as Assistant Director at Poplar Bluff Library. I served as President of the Missouri Evergreen Executive Board from 2020 to 2022, and I currently serve as past President. As Mickey, Steve, and Sue have already shared, one of the greatest benefits to a member of Missouri Evergreen is the community and the value that the community brings to your library and to your patrons. And a lot of the ways that we do this is by sharing our training materials, sharing our promotional materials, and then serving as a resource to one another if questions pop up about how the ILS is acting, or if there's if you're wanting to launch a new collection at your library and you want to know how other libraries have handled that collection in the past using the Evergreen ILS. The Missouri Evergreen community really steps up and provides information to members about how to manage those types of tasks at your library. So I'm just going to go over real quick the areas on our website that fill that community need. Missouri Evergreen has really matured in the last 10 years, and we've really developed a lot of structure that helps us share this type of information. The biggest thing that's happened in the last year, the Missouri State Library funded a one-year cataloger position, full-time cataloger position, and that cataloger developed a cataloging certification process. So they developed 2 full training modules, a basic cataloging certification and an advanced cataloging certification. It comes complete with manuals and training videos, and the catalogers at every library turn in their completed work through that certification process to the consortium cataloger, who gives feedback, and then they're certified to catalog in the Missouri Evergreen community. So I wanted to show you some of those training resources and where you can find them on the Missouri Evergreen website. They're all under our member resources tab. And you can see here, there's under the third menu option is cataloging certification. And from here, we have both levels, our full manual, 59-page manual on training in cataloging for the Missouri Evergreen Consortium, and with that accompanying videos that walk through every step of how to catalog in the Missouri Evergreen system. We find that this is a huge benefit, particularly here at Poplar Bluff. This has taken that requirement or that burden of creating training material, creating documentation, keeping that documentation and those training materials current. We've just hired some new cataloging staff, and it was wonderful just to set time in the schedule for them to go through these training modules and to get up to speed on how to train with Missouri Evergreen. And it took that time and that cost off of us here at Poplar Bluff, off of our staff and out of our budget. We were able to use Missouri Evergreen to handle that training. That's something that we really find a value in the Missouri Evergreen community, is the ability to get those training resources from the consortium rather than developing them locally. You'll find the same type of training materials for circulation. This year, we're actually launching regional in-person circulation trainings. We're doing our first one in Scenic Regional, I think in November. Don't hold me to that date, but we are going to try to do in-person regional trainings around the state for circulation in FY23. We did do some in-person cataloging trainings this past year as a part of our cataloging certification process. We also have promotional materials that we share through the consortium. So for example, there's a Missouri Evergreen business card. It's already developed. You can just buy business card stock and print it and have the business card at your library to hand out to patrons. We've shared bookmarks on how to keep your reading history in the OPAC that you can print and give to patrons. We have posters and even digital slides that you can use for social media. That's not the right one I wanted to show you, but anyway, social media graphics that you can use, already designed, and we branded them just with Missouri Evergreen, so any member could use those or download them and tweak it for your own library to brand it according to your library system's logo and branding. The other thing we're really proud of is our new Missouri Evergreen YouTube channel. We do have committees that meet monthly. We have a cataloging and circulation committee. They both meet monthly. We do ask that members attend those committee meetings. Not everyone can attend when a committee meeting is held. Therefore, we're recording all of those committee meetings and having placing them on our YouTube channel. So if you can't join the meeting live, you can always watch the recording of the meeting. We've got our general membership meetings. And all of our committee meetings, let me show you here, are on our YouTube channel. We also have a lot of our training videos on our YouTube channel. So for example, reports is one that's a little bit more difficult to work through sometimes. And we have a playlist here on how to create, run reports, schedule reports. That's a step-by-step video. So I think that's been a really big resource for us here at Poplar Bluff. Reports are the hardest part of the Missouri Evergreen ILS. Reports are probably the hardest part of every ILS. And so it's really nice to have those videos that you can rely on and refer back to when you either have a new staff member come on board, or if it's time to do the state statistical report and you need a refresher on reports. Other than that, we also have discussion list. We have really active discussion list. We have them just a general membership discussion list, or your catalogers can subscribe to just the catalogers discussion list. They do a lot of communicating on those lists about how to catalog something in the Missouri Evergreen system, or if they have a problem with the cataloging record, they can reach out to fellow catalogers around the state and get some input and some guidance on how to clean up that cataloging record so that it displays appropriately in the OPAC and in the ILS. We have a pretty active circulation discussion list. And in that group list, a lot of times we talk about how to set your borrowing rules, how to get your email notices and your text notices going out accurately, how to get your receipts printing the right way. And then the directors group allows us to push information out about the consortium to directors so everyone stays up to date and knows how the Missouri Evergreen communities moving forward, what kind of decisions are being made, keeps you informed about grant levels and fee schedules for the upcoming year so that you can budget and plan accordingly. It's just been, from Poplar Bluff, as Steve's already shared, we're sharing and borrowing around 15,000 items a year through Missouri Evergreen. Before we went on Missouri Evergreen, we were probably doing less than 100 ILLs a year. So even if we wanted to, there was no way we could walk away from Evergreen as an ILS, because our patrons just would not, probably would be at the door with, torches and pitchforks. But besides the resource sharing part, the Missouri Evergreen community really is a huge value and a huge impact, and something we really rely on as a member of Missouri Evergreen. And so we just wanted to show you how that has matured over the years and what those resources are available to your library if you should consider membership in Missouri Evergreen, and how easy they are to find on our website and through our YouTube channel. So unless there's questions about those resources for me, I think that covers most of my agenda items. Mr. Campbell?
Yes, ma'am. Pulling up our agenda to see who's next. I don't have that in front of me here. Sorry about that. I believe we are.
Steve, are you having?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just
okay.
talking. I was talking and talking, and my headset was above me. I have to use this weird headset because I'm looking here. Okay, here's our. Well, now I can't find our agenda. I apologize.
Well, I am next.
Oh, okay, perfect. Oh, now I have our agenda. Of course, good timing. We are now going to hear from Jeannie Sullivan from Moornet.
Well, thank you. Well, good morning. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this. So for those of you I may not have spoken to before, I'm your service representative basically at Moornet. And so if you're not sure who to ask at Moornet, contact me and I can answer your question or get you to the right place. But today we're talking about bandwidth needs. So when you're adding a service that uses your internet connection, it's good to review your current bandwidth. Excuse me. If you have a larger connection with plenty of capacity, you're probably okay. But if you have a smaller connection and there's lots of traffic, you may need an upgrade. And it's better to look at this sooner rather than later after you've gotten Evergreen implemented and things slow down and no one's happy. No one wants that. So if you have a Moornet connection, you can have a review of your current capacity. You can just email help@more.net, and we have all kinds of monitoring tools, things like that, where they can really do a deep dive and review your capacity, how much traffic you've got going on it, and make a recommendation on whether you do need more bandwidth or not. If you decide you would like an upgrade, You can contact me for pricing and we can discuss timing. With real program funding, the only fee that's impacted is the network connectivity fee. And so, of course, that's everyone, what is this going to cost me? And I understand that. And we can discuss the pricing. You can also look at the pricing for the network connectivity fee for different bandwidth sizes through your MyMoreNet portal. If you log into your portal with your email address at my.more.net, then there's pricing on the bottom. Or, of course, you can always contact me, and I'm happy to discuss this with you. So what is the upgrade process? If you decide you do need an upgrade, there are 4 upgrade windows: October, January, April, and July. And I send out an email reminder at the beginning of each month. So hopefully you've seen some of those. So pricing is then at the end of the month, we put together all the requests. Pricing is put together. We send that to the state library for their review and approval. And then once that is approved, I would then create a service agreement, basically a quote that outlines all the costs and the real program funding. And then once you would receive that through email, and then once you authorize it online, we can then begin the process of turning that connection up or ordering more bandwidth from the telephone company. And then I guess the important thing to realize is that upon authoring that service agreement, that is when you're committed, and that is when we can start the process. And it could take anywhere from a few days to a few months. So it really is good to kind of plan ahead, see where your needs are, and then we can discuss pricing and timing. So, any questions?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay. Well, my email is Jeanne, JEANNE @more.net, and I am always happy to help. If you want to start the process of a review for your connection bandwidth, just email help@more.net with that or any other technical questions or issues you may have.
Thank you so much. Now I got the agenda up. I'm going to be on track here now after that first debacle. Our next presenter will be Janet Carruthers, who is with the Missouri State Library. She's filling in for our state librarian, Robin Westfall, today. She's going to discuss some of the grants we talked about for migrating and automating, and about the grants that are used for helping offset our membership fees.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Good morning. As Steve said, I'm Janet Carruthers. I'm the Technology and Resource Sharing Consultant here at the State Library, and I'm happy to talk with you about how the State Library supports Missouri Evergreen, and we also support the libraries that are migrating into the consortium. So the State Library provides LSTA funding through grants to new Evergreen member libraries for automating your library or migrating to Evergreen. Eligible costs for the automation grant include migration fees to Equinox, computers for public catalogs or circulation terminals, barcode scanners, label and receipt printers, library cards, barcodes, and even additional hours for part-time staff or to hire staff to inventory, weed, or to do other tasks to prepare you for the migration. And that grant period is for 1 year from the date of the award. And as Jean was saying, this is that you need to plan ahead for the bandwidth. This is something for this library automation grant, you will want to plan ahead also, because a lot of these tasks you want to get done before you actually have those migration dates with Equinox. So if you decide to join the consortium, that's one of the topics you'll be talking with Mickey and some of the other Evergreen members or board members to talk about timing of when to apply for the grant and things like that. And of course, I'm always here to help you with that also. The State Library also provides LSTA funding through a grant to Missouri Evergreen, which pays for a portion of the consortium's hosting and support costs paid to Equinox. And by providing this funding, this consortium is able to lower or offset the annual membership fees. And so I work with Mickey throughout the year and for the grant reports and things like that. And we are happy and so proud to be able to provide this funding. So we're able to keep the membership cost low for you so you can actually participate with resource sharing across the state. So that's really all I have for that. Anybody have any questions? Well, I will say that for the libraries that are joining Evergreen and they have applied for the library automation grants, we have seen the gamut from Reynolds County, who was not automated. So Evergreen was their first ILS. And so we did computers, we did supplies, receipt and label printers. I mean, they basically started from scratch. So we did all their supplies and equipment and also the Equinox cost. And then we have some libraries that are already automated, and the only cost that the automation or that they wanted funded was the migration cost to Equinox. So we have a wide range of funding options there. So if you are you know, but if you do need like newer barcode scanners or receipt printers, if you're changing ILSs, you can, put those in to the grant application also.
Okay. There is a question on here. It says, from Ferguson Library, what kind of costs are we looking at if the state library stops covering part of the membership fees? When we did the fees as part of the fees committee, I have to double check on this, but our contingency plan for if funding was eliminated completely at the time, I believe the fees were to all double, which sounds horrible. Like I mentioned, though, our fees are $18,000. So if they doubled to $36,000, we're still, significantly lower than what our quote was for Polaris or Cersei. So, but that was kind of what I think it was double. It might be a little less than double. I'd have to double check and get back to you on that, Ferguson Library. But that's the answer to that question. Any other questions for Janet from the state library? I would like to say the state library, the Secretary of State, as well as state library and state library is very committed to maintaining their funding for Missouri Evergreen indefinitely. There is no projected plan to phase down funding or to eliminate funding. So for what that's worth.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for adding that, Steve.
Okay, if there's no other questions for Janet, thank you so much for being here today to talk about state funding. The next item, we're right on schedule, which is great. Our next item is we're going to have a demo of the OPAC for Missouri Evergreen. And Diane Disbro, who I mentioned earlier in my spiel that we have a circulation coordinator. Diane Disbro is our circulation coordinator. She is the person who deals with all our Evergreen help desk tickets from our branches, etc., like that. So if you have any quick questions about her role as circulation coordinator, this might be an opportunity to ask those as well. Diane, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Diane.
You're welcome. This is the generic Missouri Evergreen OPAC. You can find this in the Missouri Evergreen website. That address is moevergreenlibraries.org. Shannon showed you a lot of stuff on this page a little earlier, and she mentioned the regional training, and that circulation training will be happening at Scenic Regional on November 17th. And we'd welcome anybody to come in and sit in on that. It'll be from 10 to 3, I think, and we're going to provide lunch. So you would just need to email me if you're interested in attending that or more information, or if you have any other questions about being a circulation coordinator. And my address is D. Disbro. You can see how you spell my name right there on the screen. ddisbro@scenicregional.org. So this is the generic OPAC. You can see basic search parameters here. If you want to customize this, however, I don't know if you can see me moving your faces all around here so you can see my screen better. This is the basic OPAC. This is what Poplar Bluff has done with the OPAC. You can see they've put their own branding on here. There are different tabs to click on in this ribbon. We have carousels that were developed by Mobius that can be added to your website, Poplar Bluff, to your OPAC rather. Although you can put them on your website as well. Several libraries, including Scenic, have put some carousels on their OPAC, on their website homepage. These are showing new titles in different shelving locations. And there, it opens up to the basic search, but you can see that there is an advanced search and just a browse function here. The Poplar Bluff search, default search library is Poplar Bluff main library. I'm going to show you the Scenic OPAC page. We kept some of the green branding for Missouri Evergreen up here. So this looks more like the default basic OPAC. We also have some connections in our ribbon. You can log into my account here. It opens up again to the basic search. We're searching Scenic Regional. We have 9 branches, so we're searching all of our 9 branches at once. When we first migrated to Missouri Evergreen, we put the Missouri Evergreens as the basic, as the default search, and our patrons freaked out because it was way too much information. And I think we were library number 24 or something like that. Now we have 60 libraries. So there are even more options here. You could show all the locations if you click on this button. If somebody wanted to know if there was something available at Sykeston, they could click here and check the Sykeston library. We have, as well as 2 carousels, one showing the items most recently added to the catalog. And this is all connected to the catalog, so it's done automatically. You don't have to do anything once this is set up to create the links on this catalog, on this carousel. And you can click on any of these titles and get to the catalog record for it to place a hold. We have recently returned items because everyone wants to know what other people are reading. So you can look at that in this carousel. During summer reading program, I added a 3rd carousel for books that would tie in with the summer reading ocean theme. So I looked up a bunch of titles that should go on that carousel, and I manually created a carousel. So they can be automatic like these 2 are, or you can create manually supported carousels. I put it up for 3 months, then I took it down. It's not here any longer. We had our trainer create a video about how to search the catalog, and we're willing to share this video with any library so they could put it on their catalog homepage as well. A 3-minute video telling patrons how to use this catalog. So to search for something, let's search for this book, Circe. You can search by keyword, author, subject, series. Digital book plate is something that you can customize for something like we use it for Stories Matter, books that are for children and young adults that are inclusive, diverse subjects. So if you wanted to find a book that was in that collection, you could search by digital book plate. All formats, you could search for books, music, DVDs, all this other stuff. Let's search for all books with the title, Circe, Scenic Regional. And we have 4 results here. Here's a large print book with the title Circe, Madeline Miller. Here's a regular print book. I have these little icons that tell you what you're looking at. And a couple of kids' things that have Circe in the title. That is what's highlighted here. My search terms are highlighted in the results to show you why in the world we have these search results. This shows that 0 of 2 copies are available at Scenic at Missouri Evergreen. 0 of 1 copy is available at Scenic, which means that in Missouri Evergreen, there are 2 copies, large print copies of Circe. Both of them are checked out. And Scenic owns one of those copies and it is checked out. Here we have 38 of 44 copies are available at Missouri Evergreen. 2 of 4 copies are available at Scenic. You can click on the title to get more information. Although you could see at that previous screen that you could place a hold from that screen, or you could go here and get more information and do a few more things. From the previous screen, you could add that title to a basket. So a patron has 5 books she wants to put on hold. She could look up 5 of them and put them all in a basket and place a hold all at once. You could also print the information about this title. You could email it to yourself if you want to make sure you remember it. This is the large print book. It's at our Sullivan branch. It's currently checked out. There's the due date. You can we pay, the consortium pays Syndetics to provide the cover pictures and to provide summaries. So if you click on summary, you'll get a summary of what this book is about. We pay as a consortium to get this information. Scenic pays for a novelist to provide even more information. So if you are into novelist, you can add that to your catalog here that shows read-alikes, similar authors, all this reader's advisory stuff. Did you like this book because it was atmospheric? Then we could click on atmospheric and get more books that the patron might like to read. There are awards listed here and the Lexile and the accelerated reader level, even for adult books. So adults and kid books have this information. Now you could click on shelf browser to find what books are on the shelf next to Circe. I don't really care about that because if I want to read Circe, it doesn't necessarily mean I want to read the Debbie McComber book that's next to it on the shelf. And the MARC information, MARC record information is on here as well. You can see all of this yourself. We're only taking a few minutes to look at the COPAC now, but you can go to Scenic Regional Library and click on catalog and see this information yourself. I want to show you what the Poplar Bluff catalog results search results look like for the same search, because Poplar Bluff Main Library, yes, same search. Poplar Bluff selected to have these facets appear on the side. These do appear on the staff side when the staff does a catalog search. And these are search limiters. So Poplar Bluff has 1 copy of Circe at the main branch. So this is maybe not the best example, but if I had searched all of Missouri Evergreen from the Poplar Bluff catalog, they would have brought up every item that has Circe in the catalog record somewhere. And then if all you wanted was the Madeline Miller book, you could click on Madeline Miller and get rid of Joe Smith and John Brown down here and see only the Madeline Miller books. These other topic subjects and genres all depend on what's been entered in the catalog record. So if this had more results than just one, you could click on mythical animals, animals mythical, because that's what you were interested in. You weren't interested in whatever might be listed here. So this is customizable by library as well. At Scenic, we didn't want these facets to show because it's a little confusing, I think, for patrons. I think it's great for staff, but it's a little bit throwing too much information to patron. Just my opinion. So back here to the Scenic page, as I said, you could place a hold here. You could add it to a basket. I am not signed on to any account because I have not done anything with my account here. If I try to place a hold from here, it's going to ask me to log into my account. We've got little hints here. Our patrons sign in with their barcode and their birthday the first time they log in. So that's what the little hint says, use your birthday if this is your first time to log in. Well, once the patron's logged in, they can change their username and password to something else. So it's going to place a hold for me now. Jane Patron. Hello, Jane Patron. You have one message. And it's going to send it to my default pickup location, notify me by my default notification type. Patrons can change this when they place a hold. If they say, well, I'm not going to be at HQ for the next month, I'm going to choose a different branch. They can choose a different branch of Scenic to pick their hold up. And my phone is on the fritz, so I want you to email me. You could change that here too. Patrons can suspend the hold when they're placing the hold, and so can the staff when they're placing the hold for a patron. That would be, I want this book, but I don't want it now. I'm going to be out of town for a month. So you could suspend the hold and set an activation date, or you could do like I do when there's a book I want to read, but I don't write it right now. I place a hold on it and suspend the hold, and then later I can go in and activate it when I want my hold to come to me. Jane does not want to read this book, so I'm going to cancel the hold right from here. So what is in the patron account? Here you can see you could also add it to a list. Now that I'm logged into my patron account, I can place a hold, add it to a basket, or add it to my list. Patrons can create lists, and staff can also create lists. Another thing we do for summer reading program is create lists of books that tie into the program, create a list that can be shared, and then we have our URL that we can share with staff, other patrons. And when the patron logs into that URL, it does not link them to this patron account. It's just a URL. But you can have a list of books on there. If you were doing a section on butterflies for your third grade class, you could create a list and share it with all the other third grade teachers. In the patron's account, there is a summary of charges. This patron is a good patron, doesn't owe us anything. If the patron owed something, they could pay with a credit card online. If you set up an account with authorize.net, Stripe, or PayPal. Scenic uses authorize.net, Poplar Bluff uses PayPal, and I can't remember who uses Stripe, but I know somebody uses Stripe. If you want information about how to set up those accounts so the patrons can pay online. Here is my message. It probably says I have a hold ready to pick up, or something's about to be due. I have 2 items currently checked out. Jane does, not really me. And 2 holds, nothing's ready to be picked up. I want to show you this though, before I run out of time, and here would be my list. This is absolutely too cool. This is where patrons' information is. Patron can change some information, can change the username and the password and the email address. The patron cannot change their phone number or their name or their address. We want them to contact us for that. Patron can change some notification, how they want to be notified when their holds need to be picked up. Does patron want to be notified by telephone? Here's the phone number. This is the cool part. The patrons invariably say, can you tell me what book it was I checked out last week? Because I really want to like that author and I want to read something else by him. But of course, we don't have that information for patrons' privacy. Patron has to set that up to keep the history in here, search and history preferences. This patron wants to see 15 results per page. Preference search location is Scenic Regional, pickup location is Scenic Regional at headquarters. Keep a history of checked out items. When this box is checked, then a history is kept of all the items that the patron checks out. Patron can also keep a history of items that are placed on hold. And this patron has selected to do that. When this is selected, keep a history of checked out items. Then here, where it says I have 2 items checked out right now, you can see those items here, currently checked out. And I can select to renew this item if I want to. And it will give me a new due date. But here is also where patrons can see the checkout history. And this is a history of the items that this patron has checked out. So this was returned on 7/14/2022. And you can say it was Tess Gerritsen. That was that author that you loved so much and you want to check out more books.
Diane,
Yes.
we had a question from the Ferguson Library related to this. The question was, what patron data or circulation data is retained by the system after a book is returned? I was wanting to make sure that what you just covered answered that question for Ferguson, or if they had they needed additional information.
Okay. Yes, when something is turned in, it's no longer on that patron's account.
Unless they want it to be.
Unless they want it to be on their internal like this. Staff can go to look at the history of the checkout of the item and find out the most recent patrons who have checked it out. You know, if a disc is not returned, then you can find the most recent patrons and ask them if they have it at home.
The other question Ferguson had was, we already have a professional credit card payment system through Envisionware. Can this be used in the catalogers that have to be Stripe, etc.?
Those 3 vendors are the only ones that currently interface with Evergreen. And I think we have someone here from Equinox. They can correct that if that's wrong. Jennifer, if that's wrong.
Hi, Diane. Yeah, this is Jennifer. You are absolutely correct. Those are the only 3 that are currently supported by Evergreen.
Okay. I wanted to show the mobile app too. I think that's on my list of things to show. Yes. We do have a wonderful mobile app that makes it so easy to search the catalog from your phone and place holds and renew your items. At Scenic, we have a link to it on our website. Here, get the app. And it is both iOS and Android. To show you what the Android looks like, this is what the app looks like on the Android phone. So they got the search function. You can look at your items out, your holds, your finds. Your library card barcode is kept on the app. So you don't need to take your library card into the branch to check items out. It will scan. So, you know, you can hand it to the staff member behind the desk. It will work on self-check machines. And this is what a search result would look like on the app. We're put in Potter and Goblet, just 2 search terms to do a keyword search. All formats are 13 results at Scenic Regional Library Union. So from here, you could click on this title and place a hold from there. And I'm pretty sure my time is out, but anybody have any questions?
Diane, the question about the credit cards again was asked by Kirkwood. Just to confirm, I did respond. I want to make sure I was correct. PayPal, Authorized.net, and Stripe are the 3 vendors that are allowed currently with Evergreen, interface with Evergreen, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the other question, well, anyway, any other questions for Diane before there was a question about the cataloger I want to get back to before we move on, but is there any other questions for Diane about the OPAC? Okay, I don't see any in the chat. Thanks, Diane.
You're welcome.
I might have Mickey or Sue jumping on this. The question about the cataloger position is basically, let's see, I have to go back and find it now. Basically, I guess, oh, here it is. I'm curious about the central cataloging position. If that was a grant funded position, does the consortium plan to continue supporting that role? Mickey's here and I'm paying attention now, so I'll let him answer that better than I can, I'm sure.
It was grant funded by the state its first year through some ARPA money that was available, but the importance of that position was realized by the board, and it was decided that in the event that the funding was lost, and it was in this new year, that the Missouri Evergreen would fund that position. So we are currently funding the position entirely from our resources and plan on continue doing so into the future.
The other question is, how much power do we have to prioritize which library fulfills a hold? In MLC, we currently have a carefully balanced system to make sure none of our libraries are drained out of items. I will let either, if Mickey wants to jump in on this, but I want to add something. So when my library joined, we joined at the same time as the Washington Library. And we actually, at the time, although it's not like this now, we joined as a single entity. So basically it looked like our 9 branches and Washington Library was a 10-branch system. So we do a lot of interlibrary loan between each other. We have our own internal courier that covers us and the Washington Library. So the holds were prioritized where our 2 libraries basically operated as a single system. Our holds went back and forth between each other, and then the rest of the consortium was, of course, treated as the consortium is. So that is possible, is my point, for a group of more than one library to join and still operate kind of as one. But I'm gonna have Mickey talk a little bit about, I know we have holds prioritizations and things like that. So could you answer that further, Mickey?
Yes, I think I can. Evergreen allows a pretty sophisticated amount of balancing, and the question I think was directed specifically at, can we limit the libraries that we share resources with? In general, no. In general, we would like you to be able to share resources with everyone in the consortium, but there are means of limiting that sharing through different kinds of rules that put in place. One of that we're using right now to minimize, for example, transit times and transit kinds of related issues is a geographical locator that says, you know, who's the borrowing library, which is the closest one that we can send it to or obtain it from, and can we put that geographical limiter in place for the borrowing. There are a number of other limiters that can be put in place, and if you as a member feel that you'd like to limit your resource sharing for whatever reason, that's certainly a discussion we could have. I will say that in philosophy and in theory, the idea is to maximize rather than minimize resource sharing among members.
I'd also like to add to that I know conventional wisdom is that the smaller libraries that are less funded will borrow everything from the larger libraries because, you know, they need those items. But in reality, what we've seen occur as us being one of the largest members, is that we borrow more items than we lend. We have more patrons. So I know the MLC has a lot of fairly large libraries. University City, I know, is very large. Kirkwood, those libraries. My guess is that those libraries in your consortium would find out that they're borrowing more than they're lending out to smaller libraries. That was our experience. It's experience with a lot of the larger members. We just have more patrons and they borrow. So we borrow more items than we lend. That's just, I mean, I know that's not conventional wisdom. I know when we first formed the committee to look into Missouri Evergreen, the state library did. St. Charles City County Library, one of the reasons they were not interested at the time of joining is they thought all the other members were going to strip their collection of materials. But when we actually formed the consortium and we had a lot of medium-sized libraries join, we quickly discovered that those libraries were the ones who were doing all the borrowing and borrowing more than lending. So I know it kind of flies in the face of conventional wisdom, but that's kind of what the data shows. Okay, I think if we have no other questions, we're right now, at least, we're going to move without our internal balancing items all flow to the big libraries. So no surprise, that's why we made a balanced system. Okay. Let's see here. We can talk about that further if we have time, but let's right now at least have Rhonda from Cass County. She is going to demo our circulation module, the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of this demonstration.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rhonda Bussey. I am currently the circulation specialist for Cass County. And oh, good grief, I can't find what I was looking for. Hold on just a moment. Let's share this. And I believe this is not where I want to go either. Well, we will just start here. So I just want to let you know that we are going to be sending out post the demo a link to a test server with login information so that you can get on and see everything that I'm going to be doing today. So that will be coming to an email after the demo. The very first thing you have to do every morning is log in. We are going to be using the Cass test server, so nothing that we do today is going to be in real time. We can't mess up anything, and I think I just did with the login. Well, look at that. Success. This is the portal page that you would see when you log in. On this page, you would be able to see, you could go straight to checkout, check in, search for patrons, access our catalog. But the main reason I wanted to show you this page is because over here on the right, you will see Evergreen documentation. This is going to be the complete documentation for every process that you would need for circulation. It also has reporting, cataloging, all of that. We are currently in Evergreen 3.8, so that would be the one that you would want to look at. So click in there as you get in and play with that test server. The first thing I'd like to show you is how to search for a patron. So that's over here on the left. When you click this is search for patrons, search for items by barcode, and search the catalog. So we're going to search for a patron. It brings up multiple search things that you could go for. You could go last name, first name, street address, phone number, email. All of those things are searchable to find your patron. So if I type in, this brings up every person, and actually this is a practice card for our branch, everybody with the first name practice. So you could click on the one you want, and it would display the patron here on the left. Another way to get to the same information is in the circulation dropdown. If you go to checkout, you could scan the patron's barcode and bring up the same information, or go over here on the right, click search, and again, you come back to the same search options that you've had before. Let's go ahead and bring back up a patron. Hit search. Now look at that. It did not go through. Let's go back to practice then. Okay, so here is our patron. As you're looking at your patron, you can see the patron's checkout, items out, the number of holds they have, bills they might have, notes on their account. This would be where you could edit the account. So this is one of our good patrons. They are about ready to expire though. So when the patron came in, you would see this note. We could go drop right into edit, and that would be where we could update their expire date. Click save, and the patron is now up to date. You'll notice that that has disappeared. Okay. This is also where you would put in, you could add notes. So right now, my patron had a note that their card was about to expire. That patron, it was sent straight to them. When I'm done with the note, I can click on actions and remove that note. I can also create notes here. A note would be one that is not visible to every staff member that's opening the account. An alert would cause a note to appear here. So it might be like, add my initials, hit OK. And now my message, my alert shows up here on the left side. This would also be a
Rhonda?
place. Yes.
We have a question in the chat.
Sure.
Says, is there a specific format for entering the name, middle name, or initial, street address format, periods, commas, abbreviations, etc., for making new cards?
Well, I'm going to address that in just a minute. So if you'll just hold on, we'll get to that and we'll talk through it. Okay. Blocking is another type of alert you could put on. When you put on a block, this is going to block all circulation functions, all hold functions, and all renewals. The last thing that you could see from this is that you have options on who gets to see the notes that you are putting on. This would be, even though I'm in Cass County, someone in Scenic could see this note. This would be my local library system, or I could limit it to just my particular branch. All right, let's go ahead and register a new patron. So I went to, let me go do that again. I did it really fast. Circulation, go to register patron. So this brings up all the fields that you will need to fill in to register your patron. Things in yellow are what are required, at least by Cass County, to be able to make a library card. These are all the fields that you could see, and your library will be able to customize them within some parameters. You're going to need the address, you're going to need the patron's name, but you can pick and choose which one of these spaces, do you want an evening phone? It's what is required for your library. I would scan in the library card here. It automatically comes up with a password, but as you can see in just a minute, I'll show you how Cass County changes it. First name, middle name, last name. There's a place for suffixes like junior, the second or the third. Going on down, Cass County requires a date of birth. Let me put in, let's just put in today's date. But I put in a child's birth date. And so this juvenile field will be highlighted in blue now. When Cass County does that, we always go ahead and add in the parent's name or guardian name of that child, so that if there's ever a problem with that card, we can know who we really need to talk to. The primary identification type, Cass County either does a driver's license or other, and we have specific things that are acceptable. It might be a passport, it might be military ID, things like that, that would verify who they are.
Rhonda, we have another question in the chat.
Sure.
It said, you stated Cass County requires, and the question is, can we customize what items are required, or is it the same for everyone?
Yes, indeed, you can customize within, like I said, there are some basic parameters that are going to be required by Missouri Evergreen, but beyond that, you are going to select what you require. For example, Cass County always loves to get a phone number, but not everybody has a phone number. So for us, that is not a required field. So that's just one example. But yes, you can customize as you desire. And that would all take place when you were meeting with Equinox to set up your parameters for when you were going to come into the consortium.
Rhonda, our chat questions are blowing up here. We have,
Great.
two. No, I'm sure you answer them all. We have a question that says, what does it look like to move all current patrons into Missouri Evergreen? I'm not sure what that really, Jamie Sparks, who asked the question, can you clarify that a little further, or can you jump in and with audio and maybe follow up with that?
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, I was just kind of thinking, like our current system that we have now, we use Circe. So all the patrons we currently have, what does it look like to move all of that information from our current format into Missouri Evergreen? I'm thinking of the time requirement. Like, what does this look like?
Well, Cass County had Circe, I believe. Is that correct, Rhonda?
We did. It's been so many years now, I'm not exactly sure. And our tech people were the ones who did it, but it seems like we tried to clean up our database as much as we could beforehand. And then it was like a batch move over. I'm not the technical person, but we closed one day with Circe and opened up the next day with Missouri Evergreen, and all of our patrons information got transferred over into the correct field that you would be seeing now, with a few exceptions. There were a few little things that needed to be tweaked, but for the most part, everything just transferred right over. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not.
No, yeah, you did. Yeah.
Jennifer Weston from Equinox also said she can interject here with some information.
I can just add a little extra details to that. When we move your patrons, and of course your bibliographic records and your items, all in a process that's clearly laid out for you in an implementation schedule. That's done in 2 different batches, not to go into a lot of detail today, but it's done once in a test system so that you can see all of this and see what's mapped over and how it's going to look in your test system. You'll work with an implementation team for that mapping and some of the things that Rhonda's going to cover here. While you're looking at, but we'll go through how you identify your patrons in your current system and what we need to do to pull that out of your current system and put it into your Evergreen test system. It's done of 1 or 2 ways. Either Equinox is provided with access to your current system to pull that extract, or we would work with whoever that vendor is to request an extract to be sent to us. So we can either pull it directly or just request it. And again, you would have it into 2 different iterations to see test before it's put into a live database.
Okay, Steve, anything else before I go on?
There's another question. Sorry, there's another question. You're very popular. Someone asked, are those requirements, I guess the requirements about customization, I think, of what items are required in the fields, are those listed somewhere?
That is part of your data mapping when the actual migration process is occurring. Equinox and your migration specialists work with.
Oh, you cut off, Mickey. We suddenly lost your audio.
Sorry, I was just saying that that's part of the migration process, and that your library will work with Equinox and the migration specialists from Evergreen to make sure that that data goes into the right places when it's brought over, as Jennifer said, first into the test server and then into the production.
All right, Steve, am I good to go on?
Yes, sorry, you are. Thanks.
That is totally okay. This is why we're here. We want to answer all of those questions. As we go on down, there's a field for email. You also have a place to check here. If you want this email address to be the way that your patron receives their receipts when they check out. So instead of getting a paper receipt, they would get a receipt that is emailed to them. There are places for 3 different phone numbers. Let me just show you what happens when, so going back up here, here's my PIN number now. I'm going to add in a phone number, go back up, and my PIN number automatically changes to the last 4 of my phone number, and that is something that Cass County has just set up. That's the way we do our PIN numbers. So like I say, there is customization that can happen even on these screens. Home library is the place that the person is coming into to actually make the card. There are profile groups. This is the list that Cass County uses. I believe there's like, I don't know, Diane might know better than me, 18 or 19 different ones that you can select. Then Cass County has made the choice to only show the ones that we want, instead of having to search through those 18 or 19 profiles. These are the ones that Cass County uses. Each one of these has a different number of checkouts or the amount of time that an item would check out, and so you can customize those also for your particular library. Based on the profile group that you select, it will automatically put in the amount of time that that card would be good for. Going on down, you can see my card is going to be active. This would be where I could bar a patron. Hopefully that doesn't happen often. You can group accounts, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but this would be where you would select who is the group leader of that account. Once you actually have made the account, when you go back in to edit a patron, this would also be where you could see if they had any claims returns, or if they had claimed never checked out. Cass County doesn't use that, but possibly other libraries do. This section of the registration form is how you are going to send notices to your patrons. Currently in Missouri Evergreen, you could choose phone, email, or text. Some libraries have set up with a third party to do automated phone calls. If that is you, you would check phone and type in the phone number here. If that is not you, you just uncheck, and that's going to take that requirement away. Cass County, for the most part, people either do email or text, but you can do both. So sometimes people enjoy having it on both ways. That way they're sure not to miss it. If you sign up for text, you put the phone number here, and then there's a drop down and you select who their cell phone provider is so that it gets sent out on the right tower. The next part is for address. If your patron's mailing address and physical address is the same, you can just enter it one time. But we do have some patrons whose mailing address is different than their physical address. So if that's the case, you would deselect. So here's mailing. When I put in my zip code, it automatically automatically fill some of your fields for you. You would just go back in and put in the street address or apartment number. And then if you want to add that physical address, you can click here on new address. And you'll have a whole nother field for that physical address. The very bottom of this registration is the patron type. And I'm going to have to move something here so that I can even see it on my end. These would be your statistical categories. Cass County only has 3. Other libraries I know have more than this. Again, this is customizable to what you want to keep statistics on. Once you have completed everything in your fields, you would come up to the top and click Save. That will put everything into the system. Once you've hit Save, your patron is ready to go. The other option would be Save and Clone. We use this, well, actually, Cass County does not, but I know some libraries use this for when a parent comes in and they want to register multiple children at the same time. Save and Clone will transfer address and contact information to another patron. So instead of having to type it all again, it moves it over to the new registration form. When you hit Save and Clone, it's going to group those patrons together. And so a parent would be able to see fines on a child's account back and forth like that. Those patrons will stay grouped together. All right. The other thing that is possible is self-registration. So in Cass County, this is our website. You go to how to. Well, I go to how to. There we go. Get a library card and pre-register. Well, there it goes. All right, so these are the fields with the stars that Cass County has determined they need to have in order for somebody to request a library card.
Rhonda, sorry, I had a question relevant to what you just said. I don't want you to move on too far.
Sure.
We have Ferguson asked, can you ungroup patrons at a given address that were made with clone function? And can you group patrons at different addresses together into a family group?
I believe you can group whomever you want together. I have never, and yes, you can ungroup them. I just have never done it. I usually send that to my tech person and he does it. So I couldn't exactly show you how to do it, but I know it can be done because eventually children are going to get, reach 18. And at that point, mom doesn't really need to be seeing what.
I think the question was, can you ungroup them if they're made with the clone function? So if you've cloned them, can you ungroup them?
Yes.
Okay.
But like what I said, I have never done it. My tech people have done it. So I don't know if there's anybody on the call who from Missouri Evergreen that's ever actually done it. I know it can be done.
And it's easy.
Okay.
Well, good.
And Ron Eifert also says it's fairly easy to ungroup in the chat. You enter into the patrons card and select remove from group. Another question here is from someone. It says, is the self-register option something that is automatically set up, or do we have to opt into that?
I don't know.
I think Diane Disbord, did we opt into that? I thought we did opt
Yes,
into that.
yeah, you do have to opt into that, and then you
Okay.
can put what is required on that form yourself. I mean, we can decide which fields need to be required, and it does not automatically create a card. Rhonda's probably going to talk about that.
I will. Yes, I was pretty sure you opt in. I just wasn't sure. So, all right. So where does this information go after the person hits submit registration? So back to circulation, pending patrons. So this is going to be a snapshot of those patrons that were pending when they took when they made the test server. So these are not my pending patrons at the moment. So here they all are. In order to load one, get ready to make their card, I would click on the patron I want, hit load. And you can see that it brought over the information that we have requested from them already. We would go ahead and enter the library card number, anything else that we needed from that patron, and then go ahead and click save, and their card would be ready. I know some libraries go ahead and make these every day and then mail them to the patron. Cass County requires that you come in within 30 days to complete the registration process. And so after 30 days, the names on this list will drop off. So you have a month there. We suggest, though, if you're going to make the card, that you would be checking this regularly so that a patron's not just in limbo there. Okay, let me get my list here. Let's pull up a patron again. Here and okay. I have the practice back up. This is a good patron at this point. They do not have any bills on their account. They have nothing checked out, nothing on hold, and no bills. They currently have 2 notes on their account. So let's go into the bill interface. From here, you can see the patron has no bills at this moment. This is where we would go to actually bill a patron. So let's click in. There will be a drop-in. It could be damaged, legacy find, lost cards, missing pieces, prints or copies. So let's say our patron didn't have the money that they needed today to make their copies and submit a bill. And so you can see now that the bill shows in red here and here, and you can see what the bill was for. The columns that you see here are determined by a column picker. So you can manage the columns. These are all the ones currently showing, but there is a long list that you can customize what you want your screen to show on each one of these columns. To pay this bill, you would come over here, determine which kind of bill, which kind of method for payment you wanted: cash, check, credit card, debit card, patron credit, work, forgive the fine, or if you do food for fines where you bring in like a can of green beans and it takes off a certain amount of your fine, that would be goods. So if I were going to pay this by check, I would enter the check number, put in the amount of their payment, hit apply payment, and you'd be good to go. If you want to annotate, I don't know why my screen is not allowing me to go to pay payments. Let's try cash.
Highlight the bill.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. All right. So check again. You can annotate if in case you want to put any kind of information about that payment. Hit apply payment. Oh, here, it's still got annotate marked. And my bill is now gone. When you go into history, you can see all the bills that this patron has had. Clicking into it, and then go to actions. When you do full details, you can see that the bill was originally because of lost, here was the processing fee. And when the item came back in, this is when it was paid and the fee was taken back off. So it's nice to be able to get those details. Sometimes if I'm marking something damaged, I will try to put in, annotate that. For example, a dog ate the book, ate multiple pages, or liquid damage on these pages, so that when you look at this detail, you would get a message here showing exactly why that item was marked damaged.
There's a question here from, which is near and dear to my heart as a colorblind person. Ferguson asked, is there a colorblind mode for staff members who are colorblind?
Not that I know of. It might be something that we should consider, but I've not ever heard of that.
And then we have another question. It says Diane, but I think if Ronnie can answer this, I think I already know the answer. It says, Diane, are internet-only cards active immediately, or do you have to review them? And she answered, no, there's no way for the ILS to automatically create an account. We do review those and have to enter them ourselves. Yeah, it's something that I think several members would like to have done. There's also a question here from someone who says, can you briefly explain the difference between voiding a bill and adjusting a bill to zero?
Voiding a bill is, it takes out the complete record of that bill. It's just like it never happened. There would be nothing that you could track in the future on it. Adjusting is going to create that history. Does that answer?
Yes,
question?
he said it does answer it, yes.
Okay, very good. Again, from bills, remember Diane was talking about you can do that credit card, debit card, and we talked about the three different ones that, 3 different services that you can use to actually process those credit card payments. The next thing I'd like to show you is how the holds system basically works in this circulation interface. So every morning we ask that if your library is open, you would come in and do a pull holds list. I'm not sure. Okay, well, we do have a few on here. So every morning we would pull this list. You come over to this little gear. This is where you can also change those, what columns show, and then go to print full grid. And here is your pull list for the day, ready to be printed. The other thing we do regarding holds every single day is the hold shelf. So this is going to pull up a list of every single thing you have on your holds list. If it will go, there it goes. So this is, Cass County has many more than that on our holds list right now. So it will, anything that's on that hold list. This is going to be the holds that are clearable for today. Cass County has selected to leave our hold on our hold shelf for 10 days. Other libraries could pick a different length of time if you wanted to. When you hit clear these holds, these are the ones that we want to pull off today. After you find them, you click everything, clear these holds, and that's going to take them off of your hold shelf. At that point, they basically have canceled that hold. The next step you would have to do is go to circulation and check each one of those in, because once you check them in, it triggers where this item is going next. Is it staying at your library? Is it going back to one of your library systems branches? Is it going for a hold? Does it go onto your hold shelf? So checking it in is going to tell you what is going to happen to that item. But a patron comes in and they ask, do you have this book? And so there's two ways to go about doing it. If the patron, I usually ask the question, is this something that if we do not have, you would like us to order? If they want us to order, I would go into checkout, go into their account, and place the hold from here. Place hold. It brings up the search pane. So you can add keyword, maybe you want an author, maybe you want a subject, as many of those as you want, or you can take them back out. You can also add in formats, languages, literary forms. All of these things are limiters. A publication date is, before, after, between. All of those are searchable. Cass County typically searches all of Missouri Evergreen so that we can see if the item is available anywhere. You can also change this to search any of the Missouri Evergreen libraries, or we could go to our own particular branch to search, and that would tell you if it's on the shelf at the moment. So let's just do a search for something. Let's see. So here are the items that come up with the parameters that we have given it. So this one is a DVD. This one's also a DVD. Here's a book, a sound recording. So as you're looking at this, you can find out that there are 34 copies out of 60 available in Missouri Evergreen. 6 out of Cass County's 8 copies are available. If your patron is coming in and they want to select, they're going to place several things on hold. They come in with a list. You can click here, and that will put their hold into a basket. You can go on then and search for your next item. I didn't necessarily put a author's name on it, so I'm just going to pick one here. And now my basket has gone to 2. From baskets, when they're ready to, if they have gotten all their holds, you can hit place hold. So you can see at the top, this is NRC's practice card. It transfers over the library card information already and their preferred way of notifying a patron. When I hit place hold, you can see that they turn green and the hold has succeeded. If for some reason it will not go through, this will turn red and you would be able to search for a different item at that time or try a different bib record, or it might just be everything on, go back and check to make sure that everything on that bib record is not missing or lost. Unfortunately, it does happen. Okay, so I can also go straight back to my patron from here, and I can now see my 2 holds that are on that I've placed for this patron. The other way you can place holds would be going, just search the catalog. I can go straight to place hold. In this situation, I do not have my patron yet. I don't have their patron information that came straight over, but I can search for a patron right here. So I'm just going to put in myself. So this is all of everybody who has a close name to Bussy for my last name. And look at that, there's more than what, let's do Rhonda so that it limits it. Oops. And so here I am, I click and select, and it transfers my information. So I'm ready to place this hold. We talked a little bit about hold fulfillment earlier. The way we worked on it fairly diligently, Diane and I were on a committee for this. The way it works is it's going to check your library first, then your library system. If you're a multi-branch system, we have 5 Missouri Evergreen, 5 hubs, courier hubs around the state. And so then it will go to other libraries that share your hub, and then it will shoot out into the broader Missouri Evergreen community. Even then, it's going to target libraries that have courier service 5 days before it would target something, a library that only has courier service 1 day. So all of those things designed to get material from one library, even across the state, all the way across the state in about a week. The average time is right at a week for something coming from Scenic to Cass, and we're on opposite sides of the state.
Rhonda, a question here is, looks like some names are in all caps and some aren't. Does consistency matter for mailings?
For what?
For mailings, I guess some libraries mail overdue slips and things to people.
Oh, I see. I think it's just how you prefer your library information to be entered in. I don't think there's a rule about it. I typically correct things when I see it on the Cass County things to get them more back in line with what we want, but there's not a rule whether you want to, if you want to use caps, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. Anything else?
That's the only question I saw. Any questions for Rhonda regarding the circulation module?
We're not quite done.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought that's what you were running up. Okay.
No, I just didn't know if you needed. Let me go really fast here. Check out. Put in a barcode. So here I am. If I check out a book, it's going to show up right here. When I'm done, I click done. If you want just a quick receipt, when you do it this way, it will stay in this account so that you could do further services for your patron, or you could go to done and it will immediately print out your slip for your patron. There are, now let me go back to that one more time. You can retrieve your last patron. So here I am. There are options here on checkout to change your date. Book clubs are one thing that we change date for. I can just click a date option and pick the date that I want. And so that item would be checked out on that particular day. For checking in, I'm going to scan my item. It's going to show, again, you can pick the columns that are shown by clicking here and going to actions. These are all the things that you could do with this item right from this check-in screen. Mark it damaged, discarded or weeded, mark missing pieces.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Sorry, all the questions.
That's okay.
I think this is great, though. It says, can you send prints to a receipt printer automatically, or do you have to go through the choose printer dialog every time? It's a feature and frustration with Polaris.
Yes, there is a quick way to do that. I go over here to, right now, I don't have that on because I'm not attached to a printer, but with check-in modifiers, I can go to auto print. And so I do not have to think about it at all. It will just automatically print my hold slip or my transit slip. As soon as I scan it, it will just print right out.
And we use auto print too, so it works great.
It's wonderful. Other check-in modifiers are also available. Amnesty mode, we use this when we were closed part of the time for COVID. You can update inventory, all of those things right here with this check-in modifiers. The very last, we have two more things. I'll try to go really quick. Item status. Again, scan an item. So it says this item is reshelving. It's an easy reader. When this in blue, I can click on, it will take me to that record. I can also go to the detail view. So on this book, I can see that the last check-in station was NRC. The checkout date was the 12th. How many times has it been checked out? And also a breakdown of when those checkouts occurred. When the catalog record was created and when it became active for this particular item, the price of the book. And here is where you can also see who had the book last. So here I am, I can click on any of these blue things in blue and it will take me to that patron. Because it's a web-based system, I can easily go back and forth between those screens, which makes it pretty seamless, pretty easy to use. We used Circe before, and I have found that training on Missouri Evergreen was actually easier than training on Circe. But any other questions that I could possibly answer for you on circulation?
Question. It says notification question. Is there a texting feature in addition to the email option that automatically notifies patrons available holds, overdues, invoices for lost items, etc.?
Yes, and that is also customizable. They will have, Missouri Evergreen does have some templates, but those templates are customizable. Cass County sends out texts 3 days before things are due, when things become lost, a week after, when things go overdue, a week after they're overdue, when it gets marked lost. I'm sure other libraries might have other kinds of notices that go out, but you can definitely do both text and email.
The question was, do any Missouri Evergreen libraries use RFID? Yes, we use RFID at Scenic for, we have security gates, we have the pads, we have everything. We do inventory with it. It works with RFID. We have TechLogic, but it works with other RFID vendors as well. We also have self-check, and I know many other members have self-check, different types of self-check, and they all interface with Evergreen. Someone asked a question about, they said, I see 3 past patrons here. Is that correct? Can we limit it to only 1 for patron privacy? And Diane Disborough responded in the chat, yes, you can limit the number of previous patrons that appear. You can limit that to 1. I think that might have answered all the questions in the chat.
Good. All right, then. I think it might be lunchtime.
Yeah. Any last minute questions for Rhonda? I also, I mentioned, Rhonda answered the colorblind question, and as did Equinox, but I was going to have Diane Disborough jump in just for a quick second about the colorblind issue, because I kind of had some, we kind of talked about it in direct chat and had some feelings about it, because I am colorblind. So Diane, could you talk about that just real briefly?
Sure. There's nothing that you need to be able to see a color for to perform a function. There are things that appear in color. You can see on the screen that Rhonda's got there, that's blue for that title. And some of the words are black, but the words are all there. Patron alerts will show up in red, but the words are there. When a poll is successfully placed, there might be, or I know when someone checks out something and automatically gets the email notification, the words show up in the bottom right of the screen for a few seconds and it says email receipt sent. The words are there. It has a light green background. So anything that's got colors, you don't have to see the color to be able to perform the function.
Thanks, Diane. Hope that answers that question as fellow colorblind people unite. Okay, we're gonna have lunch. Our lunch now is only 45 minutes. I apologize, we're running a little over, but we had lots of important things to cover. We will reconvene here at 1 o'clock with the cataloging module, I believe, on our agenda. So if you all want to you can log off. I'm going to leave it on here anyway, regardless. And then if you want to rejoin us at 1 o'clock, that would be great. See you all then. Thanks. Okay. Hopefully everyone is headed back. I will wait a couple minutes. I know we ran over for lunch, so I can't give everybody else 15 minutes extra to get back because we ran over 15 minutes, but I can give a couple minutes.
Yeah, these are the days where I'm grateful my house is only 2 minutes from the library.
Yeah, I'm lucky I usually bring my lunch because I'm cheap, but I did today, so that worked out well. Let's see here. I guess we have a lot of people funneling back in. Ron, I guess we're gonna give it one more minute. Okay, I see people's video flashing on and off. I turn my video on, I guess. A lot of people coming back from lunch. Great. Let's see on my phone. Okay, one more minute.
I think we had 32 at the end of the morning session, and I think we have 32 participants now. So
yeah, I don't know if they're just like me. Well, I don't know if some people just kind of left it running, and yeah, we can get started. It's 1:02. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I know it's hard to come back to meetings after eating, but we are going to get on with the demo, and the next portion is the all-important cataloging module, and we have Ron Eifert, from the director of Sikeston Public Library, as our presenter today. Ron has been with the consortium for a long time and is a very, very knowledgeable cataloger. Ron, I don't know if you need to share your screen. Other people were able to share their screen, so I know I didn't. I didn't make it so that you can't. You should be able to. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I will be quiet now, and I will let Ron take over.
Ron, I think you're muted.
We have sound issues, Ron. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, how about that?
Great. Great. And I will let you know if there's any questions that pop up in chat for you, Ron, as you go, okay?
All right, great. I would appreciate if you do have questions, throw them out, because if you're like me, you'll forget about them if you save them till the end. As Steve said, I'm Ron Eifert. I'm the director of the Sikeston Public Library. I am a past chair of the cataloging committee. I still serve on the committee. We kind of touched on earlier that we do have the full-time consortium cataloger. What that person does is they're responsible for the training, a lot of our troubleshooting, answering questions. Individual catalogers and individual libraries are still responsible for putting in their own information and or your own holdings, I should say. But that consortium cataloger position is relatively new. And the goal of it was, when we hired our first consortium cataloger, was to create a training certification process for catalogers within Missouri Evergreen. So if your library migrates to Missouri Evergreen, I'm going to say when your library migrates, your catalogers would have 6 months to complete the certification process to be able to continue to catalog in Missouri Evergreen. And what that allows is for us to have some consistency in procedures and processes. And it really, especially for smaller libraries, gives catalogers the tools they need to be successful. Once we started the certification process and started engaging catalogers, we've seen double and triple the amount of attendance at our cataloging meetings, because all of a sudden we're all talking the same language. The catalogers know what merging records are, how that works. They know how to create their own MARC records. And the certification process for some small libraries sounded scary, but it has been one of the better things we've ever done for the consortium in terms of helping our catalog just improve by leaps and bounds. And Shannon covered earlier over the website that the cataloging certification training materials are all on there. You may be looking at between 8 and 16 hours of training. That sounds huge, but when you're looking at getting this, it's self-paced, and a cataloger can split that up over their first 6 months in the consortium or on the job, it's really not an overwhelming burden. We had a vast majority of the libraries complete it without any time extensions needed, regardless of their size. Item management, as we were talking earlier, a lot of libraries kind of have some unease about joining a consortium. The question was brought up, we didn't want to see our bigger branches just drained by other ones. Your cataloger is where you do a lot of that item management in terms of putting the hold protections on there and kind of being the traffic cop to decide, this is something that I want available for my patrons for the full 6 months. I can have it protected. This one's not going to be as popular with my patrons. I'm willing to let that go after 3 months. Or, you can say, this is an older book that was donated that I just want in my collection. There's really no need to age hold protect that. And I have found there have been times when I've added an older book that was donated like that, and it would go out to somebody in the consortium the next day. That is a real benefit of the consortium is, the larger libraries don't have to worry about being drained as much, because a lot of times the attraction is a smaller library that has a quirky collection that maybe that library is sitting on the only item out of the 3 million. So it does all balance out. So as luck would have it, while we were at lunch, I received a box of Baker and Taylor books. So I can show you how we import those and what the interface looks like. This is what you see on the screen is what's called the Z3950 interface. I keep mine set at local catalog because I can take a new book and scan it in by the ISBN and see there are no items to display in the local catalog. So that means I'm going to have to get a record from somewhere. Before that would be going into OCLC, clicking the record I wanted, scanning the next book, and clicking and clicking and clicking until I had like 20 books to download an export file. Here I just do them one at a time. So these are all library collections that we can access their records for no charge. If you are a full member of OCLC, you can set your username and password here and have it search OCLC for records. I'm only a Cat Express member, so that's no use to me. I look at the Library of Congress and the Sky RV collection. They are some of the larger collections, and usually I'm going to find a book in those. So I'm scanning again, it's thinking about it. So you can see I have 2 possibilities in the Sky TV and 1 in Library of Congress. So we've done a lot of controls in terms of where we put series titles. The book that I have is Bibbidi Bobbidi Academy is the series title, and Rory and the Magical Mix-Up is the actual book title. We don't want a series title and a series number in the title field. The same with this one. So really number 2 is going to be my best bet for a record that I'm going to bring in that's going to require as little work as possible on my part. So I edit it. As I'm importing it, we can do this all in one step. So we can see on here, this has sets of ISBNs for a hardcover version and a paperback version. And that's okay. We can have those as long as they are within a certain page count limit, a certain dimension. We can have a hardcover and a paperback, a hardcover and a softcover version sharing a bib record. That's a recent change that we've made. It's helped clean up the catalog and put basically identical items on one record instead of having them spread out over 3 and 4 records. I'm going to add my OCLC code in the 040 field. In the 049 field, I'm also going to put my OCLC code to show that I'm the one who imported this record. Just give it a quick read through, looking at things like to make sure page count's correct, the dimensions are correct. This looks like a good record. So I hit import. And it's telling me that I can go straight to that record from here. So here's a blank record just waiting for me to add some holdings. So when you add holdings, I'm going to make up the call number because I don't exactly know. It's one of my early juvenile books. That's close enough for the call number. I'll correct that later. Add in the barcode.
Hey, Ron?
Yes.
Can I interrupt for a second? We've got a question in the chat.
Okay.
Will we be able to import bibs when loading an order or load bibs through our vendor, Baker and Taylor?
Yes, I will show how that's done a little further down. I think that, yeah, that's 2 items from now, but I will show that that can be done. So I have my call number and my barcode number, and we have templates. So basically, these are the items that I add most. I create a template so that most of the fields are already preloaded for me. So that automatically sets my shelving location, my initial age hold protection that I can go and change if I need to, my circulation modifiers. All I have to do is add in a price, and that is done. So there you can see on the item table, there's my location, call number, barcode, and you can see a 6-month hold protection on that. So since you asked about importing a record, we'll go ahead and break with the agenda and go ahead and do that. And I apologize, I'm running just a little slow. I'm not quite sure why. So I have already checked. I know this book is not in Evergreen, so I know I'm not going to be importing a duplicate record. So there is my standard number. I only have one choice. That's good. Saves me a little bit of thinking.
Ron, we have a question here. Does
Yes.
one use the OCLC code in both 040 and 049 when importing?
Yes.
Yes. And the next part, oh, sorry, go ahead.
The 040 just shows that you edited the record. The 049 shows that your library was the one that imported it into Missouri Evergreen.
And then the next part of that question is, and just the 040 when creating a new record. I think you may have just answered that.
But if you're creating a new record, no, you put the 049 also.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, downloading my record. And since I've only got one, we know that's a pretty quick download. I'm not gonna have to wait a long time. Okay, so this is where I go to import the record from Z3950. If there's absolutely nothing in there from any of the other libraries, we can do a marked batch import export. So select or create a queue. You can see by my numbers, I don't do this very often. There just really is not a huge need to get records out of OCLC for me anymore. Going to look at title and ISBN for a match. So look in my downloads folder to find my export file. There it is. See it named right there, and upload. Okay. This profile does not like to do that very well. So let me change here. And this is one thing I've got. My administration profile cannot import a record, but my cataloging profile can. Those are things I just have not done it. You can go in and change permissions for your profiles to give them permissions to do this. I could give myself permission as administrator to do this. I just have not. So we're back to importing this record. It's a bibliographic record. Create my queue again. We do want the ISBN and title. We want non-matching records because if there's a record that is already matching in the system, we don't want to bring in duplicate records. We've worked.
Oh. Oh, no, never mind. Thought we had a question, but we don't.
Hi all, this is Ron. We just had a power outage here, so I've lost my computer. Power is back on. It'll take just a minute to get me back online.
Oh, wow. I'm glad it came back on so quickly.
Yeah. Are there any questions I can answer before I get my screen back?
None in chat yet.
Okay, I'll just talk then. We do have every month. Well, let me rewind just a little bit. For the longest time, Missouri Evergreen had the reputation of avoid at all costs because the catalog is so bad. So those of us who were on the cataloging committee, well, that really hurt our feelings, you know? So that kind of became our mission to improve the catalog at all costs. And part of how we're doing that is on the 25th of every month, we are sent out lists of where the catalog has fallen short, of the mistakes that have been made, things that imported incorrectly, places where a cataloger zigged when they should have zagged. And so we get 7 or 8 lists each month that tell us where the errors are in the cataloging. So that is how we've done a lot of the cataloging cleanup, is just going line by line by line through those lists. We on the cataloging committee do that. The hope and expectation is that each library would look at those on a monthly basis and correct their own errors. Some are better at that than others, admittedly, but there again, we have gone from infancy, roaring past toddler and teenager. I feel like the catalog is really full grown. There are some areas that could use improvement, but we've really gotten there, I think. Another thing I have on my list that we need to talk about, Steve kind of alluded to when we were talking about billing fees. He mentioned something about Marchive. What Marchive does is, and I think this was a concern when Jefferson County migrated, was they wanted some consistency in our subject record, our subject headings in the 650 fields, because catalogers could make up your own, and you could have the same subject worded 5 or 6 different ways and still not have a patron be able to stumble upon what they wanted. So we contract with Marchive to look at our records and update any of those authority records, just to correct them if we've entered them wrong, to standardize them. And like when Library of Congress comes out with an update, like I think recently one was illegal alien for somebody who was in the country as an undocumented person. And that phrase has fallen out of favor, and that has been updated with new terminology. And because of Marchive, they scour our collection for any subject headings of illegal alien and replace them with the updated wording. And that's really important. My old catalog, before we migrated to Evergreen, we had like Afro-American as headings, Negro as headings. We don't want that in this day and age. We're better than that. We've come further than that. And that's what Marchive does, is it gives us some consistency on our subject heading, and it keeps us up to date with what terminology people are going to be searching today.
Ron, I have a couple of questions in the chat here. One is, when you first looked up the item to see if the ISBN was already owned and it didn't show any, do you ever look up the title also, as another format like paperback could be in your system with a different ISBN and wouldn't show up unless typed in the title?
Right. That I kind of shortcutted it today, but yes, that is where that would be your kind of your second level of finding that, especially with you'll have a hardcover bestseller come out, and then 9 months later there'll be a trade soft cover. That's definitely where we want to check, because most of the time those trade soft covers are almost an identical page count. They're just a different binding and a little bit shorter dimensions. And so, yes, definitely we would be searching by title and author also.
Okay, next question says the authority control. So the authority control is after the fact and not an automatic check when a bib record is saved?
You can ask it to do an authority check as you're saving the record, yes.
Is it, but can it be automatic? That's the question, I think.
There is, no, you have to push a button to make it happen. It's a validate is what it says as you're saving the record, and it will check through our authority database compared to what you have in that individual record, and it will highlight if there's something that is not quite right in that authority.
Okay, hopefully that answers. Oh, it says, okay, thank you. Does it also validate for proper mark format?
No. That is going to be an eyeball test where you have to go back and look to see if what you've put in actually appears on the screen like you think it's going to. Like the biggest error we'll see is people will create an audiobook with the 007 field not quite right. And so they'll end up with a CD audiobook showing as a cassette audiobook or as a CD music recording, just various errors. So most of the time your mark, if you're using a record that's already there or you're importing one, your mark is going to be okay. Where you really have to pay closer attention to that is when you're creating your own record. And as soon as I get my computer back up and running, I will show how you can create your own record within the catalog. One thing I don't think we touched on that's kind of in the purview of cataloging is the barcodes. We do require 14-digit barcodes for libraries to migrate. Equinox does do a check of your existing barcodes to make sure they're going to be compatible with Missouri Evergreen, to make sure there are no what they call collisions between existing barcodes and your barcode. Each library is assigned a barcode range they can use so that we don't have collisions between a new library's material numbers and the existing material numbers, and same with patron barcodes. Because the last thing we want is to have two patrons with identical barcode numbers where we're checking out books to the wrong person and then they go lost. And that's a PR nightmare if you get caught doing things like that. So Equinox does do their due diligence and checking your barcodes and making sure there are no collisions.
How's that computer coming along, Ron?
Well, of course, it had to do updates.
Oh, no.
So do we want to go to maybe talk reports and give me some time to come back to cataloging?
We can if Jennifer Weston from Equinox is ready.
I'm here. I can do that.
Let's do that. Sorry,
I
everyone. I know
apologize
this is
for
a little
this.
disjointed, but technical difficulties. Jennifer is with Equinox. Like I mentioned, she has chimed in a couple things, fortunately, up to this point, but she's going to talk about the reporting modules and Simple Reporter as well.
Let me see if I can share the correct screen here. And are you now seeing the landing page? Great. And just to say hello officially, I am Jennifer Weston. I am a product and education specialist here at Equinox. And I wanted to just take a moment, and I know Ron hasn't had a chance to finish what he's going to demo to you, but I just wanted to say bravo to Ron and the cataloging committee and all Missouri Evergreen for your commitment in the last couple of years to standardizing your cataloging best practices and quality control. It's made a huge difference in your catalog already, and I've seen that firsthand. So congratulations, and congratulations 3 and 4 times for all the work that you're doing and continue to do. But I'm here to talk about reports. I have had the pleasure of working with many Missouri Evergreen libraries over the last couple of years on migration projects and consulting projects. Because I'm also one of the trainers at Equinox that works with incoming libraries to train staff when you're coming into the consortium. So I might be working with one of you if your library joins Missouri Evergreen. But I'm going to focus today just on reports. I will introduce this by saying there are 2 reporting tools within Evergreen. There is a traditional reports module that has been there from the beginning. We just simply call it the reporter or reports. And there's also something called simple reports. And I absolutely have to say as loud as I can without yelling that we would not have simple reports if it was not for Missouri Evergreen. This is one of those things that both Steve and Shannon mentioned earlier. This is somewhere they decided to put their funding monies into. This type of development is the kind of thing that they are reserving as a consortium, money to help make Evergreen better for the entire Evergreen community, something they've decided in I guess it's a little over a year now, to create a simple reporter. And when you see both of these, you will see why this is going to be completely beneficial to all libraries that use Evergreen. So thanks to Missouri Evergreen again. This tool that I'll show you, and I'll show that secondly, I'll show the more the original one first, and then I'll look at simple reports. But Equinox did do the development. We did it in partnership with you and with another consortium in Massachusetts that also shared in the funding. A long introduction, but I will start, like I said, with just the original reporter that lives here on this reports tab. Well, reports quick launch there, or under the administration menu to get to reports. And there is a reason Shannon chose reports to mention when she talked about all the resources that are available to you. And one of those resources is, yes, is this large enough to see? Okay. And I was just going to say, there's a reason that Shannon mentioned the training tutorials, because this interface can be quite daunting. That's also one of the reasons I wanted to fund the simple reporter. I do want to highlight how very robust the original reporter is. There's just a bit of a learning curve. So I will just introduce you to two key elements here and introduce you to how Missouri Evergreen has made this more of a repository for shared reports so that libraries do not have to spend a lot of time creating your own. You can just share those that have been tested and been approved by the reports committee. So if you're using the original reporter, it's divided into two different segments here on the left. There's My Folders and Shared Folders, which you would quite intuitively expect that My Folders would be just what I'm working on myself that nobody else can see. And then there is Shared Folders. And this is where you can indeed share folders. If you are in a library system with multiple libraries, you could share those just within your system, or you can share assets across all of the consortium. Let me just introduce these three terms here, and a lot of learning reporting in Evergreen has been just getting used to that kind of shift in the terminology. So these three different terms here, templates, reports, output, mean very specifically, templates are you design the structure of your report, and I'm going to open one here in a minute so that you can get a quick look at that. But you define the structure. So you essentially say, I want to see my library. I want to see an author. I want to see a title. I want to see a barcode. I want to see a circulation date. So I decide what I want to see structurally. The report is more of that runtime input. I say, now I want to create a report. Let me tell it specifically. Okay, I want to look at my library. I want to look at only these particular shelving locations, maybe on display or new items, or maybe I'm looking for weeding report and I want to look at just a particular nonfiction call range. Or maybe I just want to look at specific circulation dates. So that's what your report is. You're using a template, the structure, and then you run a report based on that template. And your output is, well, quite simply what you expect to get when you run a report. So I will open an example of one of these. I'm not going to work in my folders just in the interest of time. I want to show you this great collection that you have that is shared across all Missouri Evergreen libraries. This may look very different from library to library. At the top there, if I open up my folders, of course, this is because I've got lots of stuff in there. This is my training database that I'm using, or my training login that I'm using. But your shared folder should look the same. So you've got Missouri Evergreen reports. Underneath there, you have very nicely categorized for you circulation reports, collection reports, hold reports, money, and your patron reports. Each of these has subfolders for counting or list. So do you want to know how many items circulated yesterday, or do you want a list of every item that circulated yesterday? And so then within each one of these, let's say I'm going to choose library collections, and let's say I want to count things. So let's look at counts. Now you get to see some real stuff. That you have to choose something to be able to start reviewing it. Once I do this, I can now see the list. Here you get the name of the report. You get a very good description. And as these are shared, this is important to be very clear about what your report is doing. And then you can just kind of see who owns the report when it was created. If you're looking for something specific, you can search the templates up here at the top. But if you know that you've got a really good set of reports like you have here, you can just kind of browse through them. So in this case, if I wanted to say, look at number of items in a collection based on an owning library, kind of down here at the bottom, I think. So yeah, I want to count the number of items in my collection based on my owning library, a shelving location, and a circulation modifier. Then this gives me an even better description here of what it's going to do. Not only does it say this is this is more of my template definition, owning library, shelving location. But this description is excellent. It says that I can use to show how many items are in the specified library's collection, but it does a little more than that. It tells me what I can filter on. And as you can see, that's very important. So I don't want every item in everybody's collection. I just want mine. So I can filter on shelving location. I can filter on circulation modifier, owning library, and it even tells me what displays. So keep that in mind. Two different components here with reports. You can filter or you can display. And there's a series of 5 very good training videos that will walk you through what I'm doing now. What I'm doing is just kind of giving you a demo of what it looks like. It's not necessarily a how-to session here, right? So I'm going to just very quickly say that if you are using any of these shared reports, and this covers a large majority of the kind of reporting you would need has already been written for you. But you have this option. I'm going to also say that you've got an option underneath this Mobius admin. These reports go back away and have served Missouri Evergreen very well for state statistical reporting as well. So if you looked under that folder, you would get those things that you need for that state report. So you count all of your circs, count all of your items of a particular type, break it down between your juvenile items, your adult items, and it would also give you the counts of your patrons, all of that. So you've got 2 different places you can go to. One is kind of specifically set aside for state reports, though. So you'll have everything you need there for annual reporting. But I'm only going to show one example so that we can go over and look at simple reports. So if I am using, again here, any of these shared templates, and I do start with a template, that I want to use it for my library, best practice is to clone it, because these shared folders really provide you this master list of really good templates that you can use. So to start using them, just make a clone of it so that you're not using the one that's saved for the entire consortium. Cloning just means copying, right? So I select the one I want. I go to the top and I just go clone selected template. And it's going to ask me where I want to put my template. I have lots, and you will just build your folders. It's very much just a regular folder structure, just like you would use in Microsoft Office or any other folder structure. You can create folders and subfolders. And can you print a list of your patrons in alphabetical order? Yes, Lorette, absolutely. You can do exactly what Lorette just asked. So let's just drop this in here. I've created one just for demo today in my folder. And again, you can organize these as you want. This is where these training videos would come into play. I'm not going to make any changes, but I want you to see what lives here on this is your template editor. You've got your name, your description, and I need to go to the bottom to really provide any enlightenment here. The bottom, these are your display fields, and then there's another tab for your filters. So my display field, I can say I want my owning library, my cert modifier, circulation modifier, and Evergreen is what a thing is. It's kind of like an item type in many other ILSs. There's your shelving location, and here I can count my number of items. I know I'm counting because I can use this field transform. So if I just left that at raw data, it was going to give me that item ID. I don't want that. I just want to know how many. So I can simply just change that to be count. And again, you've got training tutorials on the various transforms, but that's all you really need to do there is change your transform to say count. Then you've got the second tab there that does filters. Same thing here. I can filter on those things that I want so that I can really just exclusively get only what I want to see. And it does not have to be the same thing as your display fields. I'll cover that again in simple reports because simple reports follows the same logic, display fields and filters that you're choosing. And lastly, before I bounce off of this screen, I will just open up this table here to show you I've got a source of item. And most of your reports that you'll be cloning, this will already be determined for you. I just want to show this to you because what you've got here is an item table, and then you can see all these other tables that are connected to it. Part of the fun and part of the adventure in reporting through this original reports is finding where those fields live that you want to report on. So where's my item coming from? Where's my title coming from? Because it doesn't live on the item table. It lives, back on the bib table. If I want patron information, where's that coming from? So again, great tutorials, great documentation that can walk you through a lot of these pre-existing templates that you could use to clone and kind of tweak as you need to. Without going into all the table relationships, Again, you don't have to create the relationships. They're already there. You would just go up and down this kind of our hierarchy tree here to choose what you wanted. But that's more of an advanced training. Just want to show you what this looks like. The regular practice here would be find one that you want. You've got a description. And you say, that's exactly what I want, but I need to make it mine. So all I've done so far is I just chose the one from the shared reports and I clicked on clone. I'm just going to save it, but I do need to name it something different because I can't have two reports named exactly the same thing. So I'm just going to say cloned from shared report. And that way I know I can leave myself a little breadcrumb too in the renaming. So I save it. It asks me to verify for sure. Yes, I do. Get a little pop-up saved. So now I should have in my demo folder this new one that just says, as of today, here's the one that I've got cloned from shared. So I've got a template, but I haven't run my report yet because I haven't told it exactly what I want. I haven't told it what my library is or what shelving location I want. To do that, I select my template. I then use my action menu, which is already defaulted, to create a new report from selected template. So again, I'm taking a template and I'm creating a report and I click submit. Now I just have to quickly fill out a name and I'm going to say test. Actually, I usually start with count of items. Oh, this is number of items circulated at a specific library. Well, we'll use this one. That's fine. Count of items circulated. And then I can just put in any description. We can say for demo purposes. And you've got to pivot here if you had more than one field you want to. That's getting into a little more advanced stuff there too. So all I'm doing here is just kind of filling in everything it's asking me for on this report screen. This is my report definition screen. So as I come down, I tell it where I want to save it. Now, this is the real meat and potatoes of it. You choose which library you want to use. And I think earlier, somebody talked about organizational units. That's how your libraries are defined. You get a code. And if you work with databases, you know, they're just codes everywhere. So I'm going to choose all scenic regional libraries. That's the SRL. I could choose just one at a time if I wanted, but I'll pull all of them here. And then if I wanted to look, you know what, I'm not going to do that, so it'll run faster. Sorry. If I want to undo that, I just select them all and delete. And then I'm just going to go back and just choose one. I'll just choose Union. Then I can choose my checkout date and time. So we will just look at, let's say, last week from Monday of last week through Saturday of last week. Got a little widget there that you saw me click. My output options here, I can choose Excel, CSV, HTML, which is going to open it up in my browser window. Bar charts, this doesn't really lend itself to a bar chart report, but if you had something that would, you could do that. You can set up reports in Evergreen, both using this original reporter and in the simple reports. And I will show you how to do that there too. But you can set it up as a recurring report. So if I want it to run this every day, or if I want to run a report every week, every month, you can just set that and then you can get an email that tells you it's done. All you have to do is put in the email. I'm going to take that one off so I don't bother my support guys today. But if you want to send an email to one person or more, you can just enter emails and separated by a comma. And so then on the day these reports are generated, they just show up in the email and you don't even have to come in to the reports interface. You can just click on the link and open the output, which is super nice. So that you almost don't have to think about them once you set up your monthly or weekly reports. I'm just going to run this one as soon as possible. There are some best practices about writing recurring reports and, but just I'm going to let you know that it is certainly possible. And lastly, I just have to choose my folder where I want my output to go. And I'm going to run this now as soon as possible. So let's save that one. And then to see where my output went, it's very cleverly stored in my output folder, right where I ask it to for demo. It hasn't finished running yet, because you can see there's this pending items at the top and completed items below. I can go back and review my output at any time. It doesn't go away unless I delete it. There is a retention policy that the Missouri Evergreen has. I think it's a year just to keep the database clean, but this does stay here. So if you're writing reports and you're making changes and you need to come back to them, you certainly can. I'm just going to refresh my screen by clicking on the folder again. There we go. Now we're completed. And I know that because I have a complete time in that column. I have my report. If I want to view my output, I use my action menu again. I go to submit, and now I've got the two options. I originally chose my options I wanted as tabular or Excel. I know that's probably very small. I am clicking on tabular output so that I can just preview it in my browser. And what I have here is a circulation report by shelving location for last week. And I can see not only, this is interesting, my circulating library. This means it circulated at Union, but I can see who owned the item, which is interesting. So when you start looking at transiting and borrowing at one library and lending from another, you have this kind of report that says, okay, these are my circulation numbers, but I circulated materials from Barry Lawrence. I'm circulating materials from all of these different libraries, and I can get this information as often as I want and for whatever time period I may want using this very same report. I don't have to I don't have to create a new template. I just have to go back and run the report again based on the time frame, and I can limit it to the shelving locations even if I'm curious. All those runtime options, just a matter of running them. So this is the beauty of shared reports. All you really have to do is go through that last step. Now that I've cloned it into my templates, I can just run it over and over. And if I don't want to see in the browser, if I were to open it again just in Excel and go back to output, it's going to open Excel. And it's doing that, of course, on my other monitor. Let me bring that over just so I can prove that indeed there is an Excel document that just opened. Can you see the Excel? It's just, Excel. There's nothing terribly new or exciting about seeing an Excel list, but there it is nonetheless. So at this point, then you could do your own totaling of the columns. There are some totals that are available in Missouri Evergreen, in Evergreen reports, but I tend to just bring things over into Excel and do my normal kind of Excel manipulation there. And then you save it at yours, it's saved locally, but your output still lives over on the server that you can get back to it. Okay. I'm not going to save that now. And close that. And I did just want to, before I go to simple reports, come back here and say, I said that it's as simple as running this again. So now I have these in my report folder. I have my demo report. Here's the one that I did today. This afternoon, the count of items circulated. So if I want to run this again, I can just edit it. I won't go through all those steps again. I would just name it something different. And then if I wanted to run this for a different library or a different checkout period, I would just change that and then come down here and click Save as New. So that I don't have to go through all of those steps again. I just have to come back to my reports folder. So my template only lives there until to make sure I've got the right structure. My structure looks great. I don't have to look at that anymore. I just come back and I can run those from here if I haven't set it up as recurring. Again, all of that magic happens because of this wonderful set of templates that lives here already. And it's very neatly organized so you can find what you're looking for. If you can't, the reports committee is wonderfully responsive. And if they have questions that are a little more advanced, we're certainly here to help at Equinox. We write a lot of reports through the years to try to get them just how you want them, especially for incoming libraries. We want to make sure that you'll have what you need as you're getting started with a new system.
We're getting a little short on time, Jennifer. Could you hit on Simple Reporter real quick, and we'll need to get back to Ron then.
Absolutely. And I can do Simple Reporter in 5 minutes because it's so fabulous. Not even 5 minutes. So if we go to Simple Reports, it lives here under Admin, Simple Reports. And you can see already that it's a very streamlined process. I have reports I've already created. I have a My Reports tab and a My Outputs tab. You can guess what lives there. If I'm creating a new report here, I'll just do New, and I just have to choose a report type. Again, circulation, collections, weeding, but this time when you're choosing these, and I'm going to just choose, make sure that I've got the setup on it. Yep. So if I am choosing this one, I am going to just choose circulation, and I'm just going to say test circulation report or demo circulation. I'm not going to go through all the steps here just so you can get an idea, and we can get back to Ron. And I just need to save my name. But here, instead of going through all of that very odd little, having to go into each of those various, the templates, the reports, the output, you don't have to do that on Simple Report. I've got common fields. When I choose my report type, it gives me the relevant fields. I don't have to go searching for them. So it's a checkbox process here. So if I just want to choose that, let's say owning library, shelving location, that sort of thing again. And I'm doing a circulation report here. Let me find my owning library. Well, you know what? It'll be faster if I do a collections report. No, well, no. I'll just throw this in here. We'll be fine. Let's do a checkout library name, policy name, and patron. So the checkout library, I want my my owning library. Anyway, I'll walk through all these. As I'm thinking, instead of writing one of these, let me just show you one that's already, it'll take less time if I just show you one that's already created. I have this all set up, but let me just do that. So let's look at this one here, this test item list, and just edit it. So now you can see that this common fields, when I selected them on the left, they just populate over here on the right. It just really is a matter of just checking those, pulling them over here. This is how I can choose if I want to count something or just list it, is under raw data. And this wizard nature of this kind of walks you through the tabs. I select my fields, I go to my output order. I've chosen how I want these things to display, so I can move them up and down so that I can do that kind of structuring of the list before we ever get to see the output. And I can sort, to answer the question earlier. This is how I can sort by ascending or descending of any of the fields. I can choose my filters. And here are my filters. Again, I don't have to use just those that I displayed, but here, I'll just open that up. Again, it's just check, check, check. These are the ones I want to filter on. And I'm filtering on, I'm in a training database now because this isn't available yet, Missouri Evergreen. It does indeed come out. It's available as of 3.9. Missouri Evergreen will be upgrading just after the first of the year, I believe. So all I've done on my filters is I can apply this kind of, this operator here equals false. My owning library equals my library. What shelving location I may want on the filters tab. Then I have an output options, same as before, Excel, HTML. I can set it to recur now. I can run the report now. And then I'm just going to save and schedule. And it has now been saved successfully. And I can go to outputs. And here it is. It just ran again today at 250. There's the one that ran at 250. So you can see how much faster that was with a simple reporter. And it is just a matter of clicking yes. If I go back here to open this one up again, all you did was walk through each of these four, check the fields you wanted, tell it what you want it to do, and click save and scheduled. And you can do this all day, every day, and get simple reports of counts and lists without having to work with that original reporter. Sorry. The reports can take, hours and hours. So I hope that that gives you enough of an introduction to how simple the simple reporter really is to use and what a quality of life improvement this truly is.
Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions about the, we mentioned the simple reporter, we were, involved, well, we weren't involved in the development. We worked on funding it, but it won't be available till our next annual update of Evergreen from 3.0 to 3.9, I believe it is, or which is in February of 2023. So we will have this feature available at that point. Let's get back to, if Ron is ready, we can get back to Ron. I don't see any questions in the chat for Jennifer. But if we want to get back, sorry, this is a little disjointed. We couldn't help Ron's power outage, of course, but we can get back to the cataloging module now.
I am really grateful. I almost did this from home. So not only would the power have been out at my house, but I also would not have internet because Spectrum has an outage for the next 3 hours.
Do you need to share your screen again, Ron?
I thought I have not.
Oh, there we go. Now I see it coming up.
Okay. So where we left off, we were, there was the question raised. Since this was an item that had a hardcover and a soft cover, should I have checked for, another version within the catalog? Most definitely I should have. So this was one, I've already checked it on the Z39 interface. We went through that earlier, it was there. So right now I have it set for just my library. That's not in my collection. I go to Missouri Evergreen, it's not in that collection. So at that point, I do know I'm safe to go ahead and import my record. And I believe this is right where I was when the lights went out before. So alrighty, so that hasn't taken very long at all. Shows me how many records I had. If there were import failures, they would show right here. But all my records imported, all I do is click on this and it takes me right to the record. I can add my holdings, my call number, my barcode, templates. This is a different profile. I don't have the same templates, but here is my Easy Reader template. That's pretty close to Easy Juvenile. All I do is go change my shelving location and it's still good. Opaque visible, that came up as no. Really, you always want your stuff to be opaque visible. So I'm gonna change that to a yes. It's in good mint condition. And before I save on this, I'll stay on this screen for a little bit. Here again is where your cataloger and your CERC are going to work hand in hand. Item alerts. There are going to be times when, like for example, media. When you're loaning out an audiobook to another library, they want to know how many CDs are supposed to be in there. Your library might know how to do that. They might know where to look. They might know your tricks, but you can't share your tricks with 60 other libraries easily. So this is where, as your cataloger enters your audiobooks, a DVD box set, anything like that, you can go on item alerts. That's probably not going to let me do it. Hold on. I'm still having some computer issues with this. But you can go in there in those item alerts and tell it, every time this item's checked in, pop up, this audiobook contains 7 CDs. Every time it's checked in or out, to show that message. If a book requires a deposit, say you charge $20 to make sure that book actually comes back to you, which unfortunately we have to do here, that can be, a check-in message that says $20, a checkout message that says $20 deposit required. Then when that book is checked in, a different message can pop up saying, refund deposit to patron. So. Okay, so I've saved this holding. This should be where it will go in and let me add the item alerts. I apologize. This power surge did not do my computer any favors. Let's go into real quick to show you how easy it's going to be to delete items out of Evergreen. I love this. What we're going to do is we're going to use item buckets. And so I'm going to scan in my items one at a time. These are all books that we have replaced with newer editions. They're no longer needed. So I just check all 4 of these, add them to my bucket. And honestly, everyone, I do apologize for how slow this is running. Between the weather and that power outage, it has not done me any favors. So let's go to this bucket view. When it loads the items into the bucket, you just check here to check all the items in your bucket, and you delete those selected items from the catalog. Now, say, for example, that your library has the only copy of this left in the consortium. It will pop up a message that says, hey, you're deleting the last item on a record. Are you okay with that? And most of the time we just click through that, and not only does that last item disappear, but that record that now is empty also disappears. Another way to delete books, this is even easier. This is the way I've gotten to do them. Scan them all in as an item status, which is under actually under the circulation tab. We can scan all of these in, and it will let you delete the items. We'll delete 4 items, and there it is. The last copy attached to a title is being removed or deleted. So this kind of gives you a heads up. Maybe you have a lot of shelf space in your library and you're like, you know, if this is the only item in the consortium, I want to be able to save that for other Evergreen users to be able to check out from my library. You know, you can do that. I don't have the luxury of that much shelf space, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this last copy, which will take out the item and the empty record at the same time. One question we have a lot of, it seems like every new library, how do I get my spine labels? So there is, and we can get you some training materials on this, there are ways to print your labels directly from the Missouri Evergreen cataloging interface. Most people choose to use like a standalone zebra printer or something like that for spine tabs. I'm even more old school than that. I buy Avery labels and run them through a laser printer. So there are a lot of different options for you. If you're using a standalone zebra printer or some brand like that, there is a lot of help in the consortium of people who've already done the troubleshooting. They've already figured out the problems you have, and they're happy to share that knowledge with you. I'm about to land this plane. So one other thing that I don't think has been covered anywhere else is there is an inventory module built into Missouri Evergreen. It's a combination of using circulation and reports to perform a full inventory on your collection. It's something that we did when we shut down for COVID. We did a full inventory of the library to keep library employees working. It's maybe a little different than what you're used to. I think it's better in a lot of ways, because when we were with first Winnebago and then Follett, we had to buy, every time we changed software, we had to buy a different handheld scanner to interface with the software. The Missouri Evergreen, the Evergreen as a whole inventory module basically uses the same scanners that you use to check out materials. It's the same process that you use to check out materials. You just go in and check them all in. And if you've, there are settings you can set to where things that are missing in the inventory, you don't touch them to check them in. They show up on a report. You can decide whether to look for them in another place in your library, mark them as missing, however you choose to handle that within your library. That is totally up to you. We are having a Missouri Evergreen Users Conference this spring in Columbia, and we are doing a full program on inventory. It's actually a program that I'm leading. So like I said, when you choose to become a Missouri Evergreen member, we are doing that users conference to kind of spread out some of that good information that's hard to find elsewhere. And unless there are questions, I believe that is about the end of what I have.
Any questions for Ron? You can ask them, or if you want to type them in the chat. I don't see any yet.
The only thing I might add to the cataloging session is the fact that we are having a certification process that's being done by all of our member libraries. There's a basic and advanced course that we require member libraries to complete. It's not hard if you've got a cataloger on staff, but it would be pretty easy. And of course, our consortium cataloger, Liz, would be the one grading the reports and the documentation. So just letting you know that we do have a standard for our cataloging certification.
This question is from Kirkwood. Does anyone use an overlay or discovery layer over Evergreen?
I don't think any Missouri Evergreen member currently does. Equinox does offer a few discovery layers that you can subscribe to and add to OPAC. We're going to try to do some demos of those products later this year as a consortium. And then there are other Evergreen consortiums throughout the country that use discovery layers. So we do know they're compatible with Evergreen ILS. We just currently aren't using them as Missouri Evergreen.
Jennifer, did you want to add anything to that? I don't know if there's any major products that are popular out there in terms of discovery layers that might or might not be compatible.
The two discovery layers that Shannon was talking about that we're supporting currently at Equinox, of course, we're open source advocates. So we're looking at open source discovery layers, which right now is Aspen and Viewfind.
But I believe some consortium are using BiblioCommons. Is that
Yes.
right, Jennifer?
I was going to say, I thought that
That's-
was, I thought that was the case too. We have a question here. During the Missouri Evergreen migration, will BIB records upload seamlessly, or will any modifications need to be made beforehand?
I can kind of talk to that, Steve. A lot of it depends on what condition your records are in before they come into Evergreen. If you have complete 007 tags, then your records are going to come in the correct format. We found some libraries that maybe have been using a simple cataloging tool rather than doing full MARC cataloging, and a lot of the records came in wrong. Most of the time, your book bibs are going to be really good. AV materials are where we have issues because we haven't quite put our finger on a computer algorithm that we trust to really merge those, because there are, especially with DVD sets, there are so many moving parts that we don't trust the computer to know that it's merging apples to apples. So long story short, the better your records are before, the better they'll go in after.
Okay. And Mickey posted on there to everyone, if you didn't see it in the chat, that Aspen and Viewfind are open source discovery products supported by Equinox. Oh yeah, Jennifer had said that. Okay. The next, the final, we are kind of almost back on schedule. Oh, we have another question here. When will our records be assessed? I guess during a migration. Shannon, you want to speak to that? I know you've been involved with migrations when you were chair and things like that. That's pretty early on in the process, isn't that correct?
It is. So typically, when you sign on with Missouri Evergreen and you begin the migration process, you're assigned 2 teams. You're assigned an Equinox migration team and a Missouri Evergreen migration team. And on your Missouri Evergreen migration team, you'll be in contact with a consortium cataloger and a member of the cataloging committee. And they'll take time to look through the current status of those records. They'll do a test load. The Equinox team will do a test load, and that'll give a chance to analyze the data and kind of see if there's any large issues that should be addressed before we do the actual migration to what they call the production system. Does that answer the question?
I believe so.
Okay.
And now Shannon Mid yet again, who is the assistant director at Poplar Bluff, will be talking briefly about the administration side of Missouri Evergreen.
Thank you. As Steve mentioned earlier, the Evergreen ILS was built by Georgia to be an ILS that could support an entire statewide consortium of libraries. So the ILS is really powerful when it comes to how it can assign rules and behaviors. It can do them very broadly at what's known as the consortium level. You can come down and do rules just for your library system, or you can get even more specific and have separate rules for your branch, or even the pickup window at your branch can have separate rules from the branch itself. So it's a really powerful tool that allows you to get really granular when it comes to setting all of your rules, your circulation policies, your fines and fee structures. All of that can get very specific and catered to your library system. And you can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you want to be with that. If you have an IT staff on your on-site at your library system and they want to dig into those settings, they can really set up all those structures for your library just the way that you want your library system needs them set to run. Or if you're a small staff, you can submit tickets to the Equinox help desk and they can get all those settings in place for you. So under the administration window or menu, that's not my screen. Sorry about that. Thank you. Let me share my screen here for a second. So under the administration menu, you'll see several different administrative modules. One of them is server administration. And in here, it lets you do lots of different things for your library system. It can set up collections. So let's say you add a comic book collection, you can go into the administration menu and set up that new collection in your library and set borrowing rules specific for that collection. So how many, the checkout limits, how long they check out for, how many times they can renew, what the fine structure is for those, whether or not it can be, that collection can, patrons can place holds on it, whether or not it's OPAC visible. You have the tools all within the administration menus to set those rules. You can talk about, you can set up your notices. So you can customize the language on all of your notices, hold notices, overdue notices. Evergreen has 3 notices. It does text messages, emails, and if you do a third-party add-on, you can do automated phone calls. At Poplar Bluff, we use Unique to do automated phone calls, and it does automated hold phone calls and automated overdue phone calls. But the text notices and the email notices, they're built into the Evergreen ILS, and that's completely free. And there's tons of notices. I think Poplar Bluff has almost 20 notices set up, from your holds available, your holds about to be canceled, your hold is expired, your card needs an update in 30 days. We have a 7-day, 14-day, 31-day, and 45-day overdue notice / bill. We do a courtesy reminder a few days before a book is due. So there's lots of notices that you can set up and customize the language, and whether or not they go out by email or SMS or both. All of that is available in the administration menus. And again, if you don't have the staff to set up those types of customized notices or those customized settings, you can send a help desk ticket into Equinox and they'll work with you to get that all configured in the system for you. That in the administrative tools, that's where you'd set up your automated payment methods, what Diane spoke about earlier about credit card and debit card processing. So through authorize.net or PayPal or Square, Stripe, I think Stripe's the third one. That's where Poplar Bluff set up our PayPal settings. It was actually really easy. It was just a few fields that we had to complete. And then we are able to accept credit and debit card payments, both at our staff terminals, and our patrons can pay that through the OPAC online. It's seamless. We do it through PayPal. PayPal auto deposits those funds into the library bank account. We don't even have to touch it. It just runs. We set it up about 10 years ago and it works perfectly.
Someone in the chat asked, does Evergreen offer automatic renewals? And
Yes.
the answer is yes. I just wanted to, in case anyone wasn't seeing the chat, I wanted to let that be known.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Cool.
Yes, it does do auto renewals, and we have auto renewals set up at Poplar Bluff, and those work beautifully. And it will send a notice to the patron when the auto renewal happens, so they'll know that there was an auto renewal on their item. And you can set that up you can set that up to match your circulation policy. So not everything has to auto renew. You can set up auto renew only on those items that qualify for auto renewal based on your own local circulation policies. The administration portal is also where you would do user profiles and user logins. So our library does a general login. All of our CERC staff log in with a general CERC staff login. Some libraries have personalized logins where every single staff person gets their own login to the Evergreen ILS, and they manage those all through the administrative tools in the Evergreen ILS. So the other thing I wanted to show you, I just kind of wanted to give you the idea of how powerful the ILS is, that it allows you to set rules broadly for the consortium all the way down to your pickup window, if your pickup window is separate from your branch and has different rules. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the resources available if you decided to sign on with Missouri Evergreen and you wanted to start training your staff and on managing the admin side of the ILS. Equinox has a lot of really great tools available in their, Jennifer, you may have to help me out, Equinox EDU. It's their resource learning environment where they have lots of on-demand videos that cover the administrative side of Evergreen, the Evergreen ILS. This one on my screen now is the Evergreen Library Administration side, and I think there's 14 or 15 videos there. It also covers user administration, and it also covers cataloging administration. So there's a lot of videos and a lot of tutorials and manuals already out there that you could use if you decided to really be hands-on with making those structures and those settings and those rules work for your library system. Again, it's not required that a member would do this because you could always just send that request into the Equinox help desk, and Equinox would totally set up everything for you. All of your borrowing rules, all of your so for example, we just added a new collection here at Poplar Bluff, and we just sent the help desk request in with what we wanted it to be named and with all the borrowing rules we wanted assigned to it. And Equinox help desk set that up for Poplar Bluff completely, and all we had to do was send that email in. So that's an overview. That's under administration. I went under server administration. There's also local administration. And then one last one is workstation administration, where you can set up things like your receipt templates. So if you want to customize your checkout receipts or your hold slips, you can transit slips, you can customize all that as well. And those tools provided in the Evergreen ILS under administration. That pretty much covers what I wanted to share this afternoon. Does someone have a question about any of that?
Any questions? There's no questions in the chat. I'd like to also, if someone's typing a question in the chat, I'd like to also add, Missouri Evergreen does have a acquisitions module, as you might have seen on your screen there. We don't demo that as part of our normal demo because very few of our members use it. Scenic Regional does use it. If you'd like information about that, you're welcome to give us a call. I don't know what other members use it. I would assume Jefferson County does. I'm not quite sure though.
I don't know either. I don't know.
I thought Trails did.
Okay, that makes sense. But if you are wanting to get information about the acquisitions module or possibly see it, we would be happy to talk to you about it. You can contact me and I can put you in touch with my staff member. It's really good to manage purchases and of new materials and tracking things for your budget. But like I said, that's not part of our normal demo because it's used by such few members, such few new libraries. Any questions about anything that's been discussed today?
I will add, I don't know if we mentioned this in our demo, with Missouri Evergreen, you get a tier 1 support, level support with Equinox, with the ILS host, which means that all of your help desk requests are covered as a part of your membership fee. There's not an additional fee to send in those requests to the Equinox help desk. You can send a ticket in by email, or you can call them on the phone. There's a 1-800 number, obviously, but as part of your fees with Missouri Evergreen, you're provided full tier 1 support from Equinox.
Any other questions? As I mentioned, we'll have this recording. I will send this recording out. I didn't want to mess the recording up, so I let it record through lunch. So I need someone to edit it for me because it's 45 minutes of dead time. But once we get that fixed, I will send it out to everyone. And if you want to show it to your board members or your other staff members that weren't here today, I would encourage that. And then if you decide, if your board decides they want to join, you just need to have them approve the MOU. And once that's approved, you sign it and send it off to Sue Lightfoot, and Equinox and Missouri Evergreen will be in touch. It is a rather simple process. Of course, the actual migration date is going to be, in the future. But we can at least it's better to get the ball rolling now, even if it's 2 years before you want to migrate. It's always better to get the ball running early, so that we can do all that mapping and things that we talked about with your collection and your policies and everything, so that everything's on track for when the actual migration happens. I see Diane Disborough has unmuted herself. Do you want something you want to add, Diane?
Yes, I wanted to remind everyone that wants access to the test server to let Steve know so he can send you out instructions on how to get into the test server.
Actually, my follow-up email last year, I believe Shannon might have given me that information to put into the email I sent out. It had the recording of this demo, and it also had the test server information in that. So I will send something out similar this time as well.
Good, because then you can practice without messing up reality. You can catalog things, you can bill patrons, you can delete materials and patron records just to see how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if anyone has any other, I see no other questions. If everybody else, let's see. Mickey says, good job, everyone. He said, please contact him or any board member if you have further inquiries about Missouri Evergreen. And yes, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And once again, if you have any questions, let any of us know, me or Mickey or anyone else, and we will get you the right information back. Have a great day, and thank you for attending. Bye, everyone.